Chapter 1224. Chihiro Snow and BB Dawn were the only two women that he had chased with all his heart. They were also the two women that he loved the most. Their positions in his heart were extremely special. Naturally, he wanted to treat all women equally. He was also trying his best to do so. However, when he saw Chihiro Snow and BB Dawn, it was easier for him to be biased. This kind of feeling came from the heart, and he couldn't control it. However, things like feelings were the strangest. Sometimes they were like this. It was hard to fathom. Lu Yuan's situation was also a normal thing. However, Lu Yuan also had his own principles. Although he was biased, he wouldn't go overboard. He also wouldn't deliberately let BB Dawn and Chihiro Snow be better than the others. The premise was that the opportunity was suitable and it wouldn't harm the interests of others. He had many deity positions in his hands. He could completely guarantee that all of his women would become divine kings in the end. He still had some left. This was the first point. After all, if there weren't enough godly king thrones, he wouldn't have allowed BB Dawn and Qianrenxue to have two godly king thrones. This wasn't the way to show favoritism. This would make Zhu Zhuqing and Gu Yuna jealous. The second point was that Chihiro Snow and BB Dawn both had twin martial souls. They could bear two deity positions. Under the situation that there were deity positions left, and these deity positions were suitable for them, this was their opportunity. After all, it was better to give them the deity positions than to waste them. This was also the opportunity that Lu Yuan mentioned. This arrangement wouldn't make others feel disgusted or jealous. At the same time, it would strengthen BB Dawn and Chihiro Snow. This was the right way to do it. It wouldn't hurt to be biased towards them. However, he also had to take care of others. As a man who had several wives, this was a basic quality. Lu Yuan still had some experience with this point. However, BB Dawn and Chihiro Snow couldn't think of many things at the moment. What they saw was Lu Yuan's special doting. Their hearts were filled with sweetness and happiness. After all, sometimes happiness came from contrast. Others didn't have it, but I did. Therefore, I felt a strange kind of happiness. This was human nature. Of course, that being said, Lu Yuan's concern for them was obvious. He really loved them, and BB Dawn and Chihiro Snow could also clearly feel it. BB Dawn leaned into Lu Yuan's arms and asked softly, "Oh, Buqi, I'm very happy that you're treating us so specially. But will Nana and the others be unhappy?" BB Dawn was, after all, mature. While she was happy, she still thought of these things. As the empress of the palace, she still had a strong view of the overall situation. If this would cause unrest in Lu Yuan's harem, she would rather not have two deity thrones. Just the evil deity thrones would be enough. No, twin martial spirits is your talent, and only you can bear two divine positions. At most, they will be envious, but they won't think too much about it. After all, they're all very sensible people. Lu Yuan rubbed Bibidon's head and said gently, "In." BB Dawn nodded her head lightly and replied. What Lu Yuan said made sense. It wasn't that Lu Yuan wasn't willing to give them two divine positions. It was just that they couldn't bear it. So it wasn't her and Chihiro Snow's fault. Chihiro Snow snuggled into Lu Yuan's arms and didn't say a word. She wasn't the empress, so she didn't need to care about the harem. She was very happy that Lu Yuan treated her well. That was all. As for other things, she couldn't be bothered to worry about them. After so many years, things kept happening, and she was already a little tired. Right now, she just wanted to enjoy Lu Yuan's love. As if he had read Chihiro Snow's mind, Lu Yuan gently kissed Chihiro Snow's forehead, stroked her long golden hair, and looked at Gu Yuna again. At this time, Gu Yuna's aura had just climbed to its peak. She opened her eyes, revealing a pair of mysterious and noble purple eyes. Their gazes directly collided. As their eyes met, the two of them couldn't help but smile at the same time. Wah! The sound of the waves crashing onto the beach rang out. The blue sea was sparkling, and the vast sky was blue. There were only a few white clouds floating gently in the sky. A fiery red sun stretched lazily in the sky, emitting a dazzling light. The scenery of the sea god's island is still so beautiful. Lu Yuan gently stepped onto the shore. He looked at the beautiful golden beach and the lush green vegetation, and he couldn't help but praise from the bottom of his heart. If there was a place where one could abandon all thoughts of fighting and make one feel relaxed and happy, Lu Yuan could only think of two things. One was the Lake of Life, and the other was the Sea God's Island. These two places gave people a relaxed and comfortable feeling. There was no fighting, no noise, only silence, only tranquility, and only beauty. It could completely calm one's heart. This was especially true for the Sea God's Island. This endless sea could broaden one's mind, and naturally, one's mood would become better. Lu Yuan liked the Sea God's Island very much. He also liked to live here. It was just that he had many things to do, so he didn't have the opportunity to stay here for long. But now he had enough time. I haven't been here for so long. I don't know if Na and the others will blame me. Of course, there's also Pasizi. Lu Yuan secretly muttered. Pasizi's beautiful face with a hint of hidden bitterness appeared in his mind. After waiting for him for so long, Pasizi must have a lot of resentment in her heart. This time, I won't hesitate anymore. I won't make you wait any longer. I will give you an explanation. Pasizi was devoted to him. Her feelings were sincere and passionate. She was even willing to die with him. How could he bear to let such a woman down? In the past, he was afraid of dragging Pasizi down with him because of the God realm. He didn't want to bring danger to her, so he didn't accept Pasizi's love. But now, he was invincible, and no one in the entire universe was a match for him. He could completely accept Pasizi and give her true happiness. Lu Yuan softly muttered to himself. He took a step forward and arrived at the ring-shaped sea in the next second. With his current strength, he only needed to take a single step to reach any place on the Douluo continent. Hulina, Zhu Zhuqing, and the others could be seen clearly around the ring-shaped sea. Most of them had already completed their trials. Only Hulina, Zhu Zhuqing, and Ning Rongrong hadn't completed their trials. One of them was the 9th trial of the Sea God, while the other two were the 8th trial of the Pinnacle and the 7th trial of the Pinnacle. Their trials were tied together with Zhu Zhuqing's. Only when Zhu Zhuqing became a sea god could their trials be completed. Lu Yuan released his aura the moment he saw them. Hulina and the others' eyes immediately lit up. They immediately turned to look in Lu Yuan's direction. Chapter 1225. Obuchi. Hulina's level was the highest, so she had the best eyesight. She was the first to see Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan's presence was so dazzling that Hulina recognized him at a glance. Her pink eyes shone with a bright light. Her extraordinary temperament and unparalleled celestial appearance made Lu Yuan's appearance even more dazzling. It's Obuchi. Hearing this, Ning Rongrong was overjoyed. She quickly opened her eyes wide, and Lu Yuan's figure gradually appeared in her sapphire-like eyes. Immediately, a sweet smile appeared on her face. Zhu Zhuqing, on the other hand, stared at the white figure with her large eyes. Her delicate body trembled slightly, and under her cold appearance, there was a trace of unconcealable excitement. Her eyes were fixed on Lu Yuan without blinking. After a long time, she finally saw Lu Yuan again. The joy in her heart was difficult to control. Apart from Zhu Zhuqing and the others, a beautiful figure in the Sea God Palace suddenly opened her eyes when Lu Yuan released his aura. Her beautiful blue eyes shone with an unprecedented light. "You bastard, you're finally willing to come back," Pasizi muttered to herself. Her tone was inexplicably filled with faint complaints. Her figure flashed, and she immediately disappeared from the Sea God Palace. Lu Yuan walked slowly. His long black hair fluttered in the breeze. His double pupils swept across the area, taking in the expressions of everyone in the ring-shaped sea. He smiled and took a step forward. His figure directly entered the ring-shaped sea. Obuchi. Lu Yuan had just stood up when a beautiful figure attacked him. With a burst of fragrance, she threw herself into Lu Yuan's arms. Lu Yuan hurriedly opened his arms and gently embraced her. In the next moment, Lu Yuan's lips felt cold. A pair of slightly cold but fragrant and delicious red lips sealed his lips and kissed him. Lu Yuan didn't back away. Instead, he hugged the delicate body in his arms and responded passionately. The kiss lasted for about 5 minutes before they slowly separated. Ning Rongrong's pretty face was flushed, and she was panting lightly. She looked at Lu Yuan with eyes full of infatuation. That's right, other than the most daring Miss Rongrong, no one else would take the initiative to rush up and offer a kiss. She was a person who would immediately take action when she thought of something. Even though there were still many people watching, she didn't care at all. Daring to love, daring to hate, passionate and bold. This was her character. Obuchi, I miss you so much. Ning Rongrong pouted, her icy blue eyes filled with longing. I miss you too, Rongrong. Lu Yuan rubbed Ning Rongrong's head and said with a smile. Then why haven't you come to see us for so long? Do you know how long we've been waiting? You bad guy. Ning Rongrong pouted, gently hammered Lu Yuan's chest, and said with some resentment. They had been waiting on the island for almost 2 years, and Lu Yuan only came now. The longing in their hearts was really difficult to suppress. She belonged to the more clingy type. It was really hard for her not to see him for so long. I'm busy, so I can't leave. But I have nothing to do in the future, so I can accompany you all the time. Lu Yuan kissed Ning Rongrong gently and said softly, Really? Ning Rongrong was overjoyed and quickly asked, Of course it's true. Why would I lie to you about this kind of thing? Lu Yuan pinched Ning Rongrong's little nose and chuckled softly. Ning Rongrong chuckled, her face full of smiles. After hearing Lu Yuan's answer, she was very happy. Silly girl. Lu Yuan smiled, pinched Ning Rongrong's cheeks, and then gently patted her perky butt. Ning Rongrong understood instantly. She pecked Lu Yuan's lips again, and then directly let go of Lu Yuan and retreated to the side. Lu Yuan looked at her with appreciation, and then smiled at Hulina, who was eager to try, and gently opened his arms. Hulina's eyes trembled and directly rushed into Lu Yuan's arms. Not to be outdone, she also kissed Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan was not surprised and also responded. Hulina's feelings for him were pure and passionate, without the slightest impurity. From the beginning until now, in Lu Yuan's heart, he had always thought that Hulina was the one who loved him the most. If Ning Rongrong was absolutely dependent and infatuated with Lu Yuan, making her unable to extricate herself, then to Hulina, Lu Yuan was her faith, her everything in life. After not seeing him for 2 years, she missed Lu Yuan more than anyone else. Now that they met again, she completely could not suppress the crazy surging love in her heart. Hulina's kiss was passionate and aggressive, as if she wanted to release all of her longing for him. Lu Yuan hugged Hulina tightly. If Bibi Don and Chihiro Snow were the 2 people he loved the most, then next to them was Hulina. Hulina's infatuation and pure love deeply fascinated Lu Yuan. He kissed Hulina hard. At this moment, there was only Hulina in his heart. Their kiss was exceptionally long, lasting for a full 15 minutes before Hulina let go of Lu Yuan. She hugged Lu Yuan's neck with both hands, and her pink eyes carefully looked at Lu Yuan's face. The deep affection in her eyes was almost overflowing. After carefully looking for a while, Hulina gently stroked Lu Yuan's face with her right hand and said softly, Obuchi, you haven't come to see me for so long. Do you know that you deserve a beating? Then hit me. Lu Yuan did not explain. Looking at Hulina's beautiful face, he said in a gentle tone. He might have to explain to Ning Rongrong, but Hulina definitely understood him. In front of Hulina, he did not need to explain. Hulina's understanding of him was no less than Bibi Don and Chihiro Snow. In fact, there might not be anyone in the world who understood him better than Hulina. After all, Hulina put all her thoughts on him except for cultivation. His likes and dispositions had long been deeply engraved in Hulina's heart. Sometimes, with just a look or a slight expression, Hulina would know what he was thinking. Therefore, he believed that Hulina knew his difficulties. It's starting again. You know that I can't bear to hit you, stinky junior brother. Lina snorted and fiercely bit Lu Yuan's lips. Only then did she let go of Lu Yuan and take the initiative to retreat to the side. Just as Lu Yuan thought, she understood Lu Yuan. Although she had some complaints about Lu Yuan not coming for so long, after kissing Lu Yuan, these so-called complaints had mostly disappeared. She was just saying it. In her heart, she had long stopped blaming Lu Yuan. As for hitting her most beloved junior brother, how could she? She would never hit him. She could not bear to do it. Quickly go and hug your Zhuqing. She has been anxiously waiting for you. Lina teased. Her words immediately caused Zhuqing's cold and pretty face to turn slightly red. Lu Yuan smiled faintly and looked at Lina dotingly. Although the current Lina was still infatuated with him, she was a lot more sensible and knew to take the initiative to give in. It really made people like her more and more. After all, not only was she infatuated, she was not jealous, and she knew when to advance and retreat. How could such a girl not be lovable? Lu Yuan was naturally not an exception. In his heart, he liked Lina even more. Chapter 12:26. Lu Yuan looked at Lina dotingly, then turned his gaze to Zhuqing. Just like how he always wore white clothes, Zhuqing always wore a tight-fitting black leather jacket. Her cold face and her outstanding figure made her look hot and sexy. That huge pride that was ready to burst out of her body and scrupulously declared Zhuqing's incomparably huge lethality to men. Although Lu Yuan had many women, he couldn't find one who could compare with Zhuqing in terms of figure. Gu Yina and Qianrenxue were both perfect goddesses. One was cool and gentle like water, while the other was pure and holy with a bit of arrogance. Their charm was impeccable. Their smiles were absolutely capable of toppling cities and countries. Although Lina wasn't a perfect goddess, she was still charming and enchanting. Dawn was even more noble and elegant, gentle and intellectual. She had the lofty aura of a pope, but also the aura of a little woman. Dawn had the perfect combination of strength and weakness, and her charm was indescribable. Even Ning Rongrong had the elegance and calmness of a noble. She was perfect, and there was no problem with her temperament. She dared to love and hate, and had a sweet smile, which was equally lovable. However, there was one thing that they couldn't compare to Zhuqing. Every time Lu Yuan saw Zhuqing, a flame would spontaneously rise in his heart, and he would have an impulse. Zhuqing's charm in that aspect was much stronger than the others, and she could easily evoke Lu Yuan's most primitive desires. However, Lu Yuan had more or less developed some resistance to Zhuqing's temptation. Moreover, before coming here, she had an intimate interaction with Dawn and Chihiro Snow, so she was quite calm. Lu Yuan praised in his heart and gently opened his arms. Zhuqing quickly stepped forward. Compared to Lina, her footsteps were much lighter. Accompanied by a faint fragrance, Zhuqing's delicate body directly sank into Lu Yuan's embrace. The impact Zhuqing brought was much stronger than Lina and Ning Rongrong. Lu Yuan's heart trembled, and he couldn't help but wrap his arms around Zhuqing's waist. With a slender waist, Lu Yuan gently pulled Zhuqing into his embrace. Her soft body and Lu Yuan's body were tightly pressed together. "Did you miss me?" Lu Yuan gently lowered his head, looking into Zhuqing's clear black and white eyes, and his right hand couldn't help but caress her soft long hair. Her fine black hair scattered between Lu Yuan's fingers. It was smooth and soft to the touch, and it felt very good to the touch. Zhuqing stared blankly at Lu Yuan. That face that she yearned for day and night was so close to her at this moment. Her ice-cold face thawed slightly, and her eyes were filled with deep affection. Her red lips parted slightly, and she slowly spat out a word. "Yes. Oh, how much did you miss me?" Hearing Zhuqing's answer, Lu Yuan smiled faintly, and then moved closer again. The tip of his nose touched with Zhuqing's, and they could clearly hear each other's breathing. Zhuqing's charming face blushed. Being so close to Lu Yuan in public like this with her temperament, she was always a little shy. Although she had dealt with Lu Yuan many times with Hulina and the others, she was always very shy every time. Very, very much. Zhu Zhuqing replied softly. Although she was very shy, she really missed Lu Yuan in her heart. So, she still directly said it out loud. Just as Ulaina had said, she had been waiting anxiously for a long time. Is that so? Lu Yuan smiled, and was very satisfied with Zhu Zhuqing's answer. Looking at Zhu Zhuqing's charming face, Lu Yuan said softly, Actually, I also miss you very much, very much. Moreover, after not seeing you for so long, Zhuqing, I'm craving your body. Lu Yuan didn't hide his improper thoughts towards Zhu Zhuqing. Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing's charming face flushed red, and her delicate earlobes became hot. Seeing this scene, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smirk. After not seeing each other for so long, Zhu Zhuqing's shyness had become even more serious. Now, Zhu Zhuqing's face was like a ripe red apple, and was especially attractive. Seeing this, Lu Yuan couldn't suppress the feelings in his heart anymore. Facing Zhu Zhuqing's red lips, he kissed her directly. Zhu Zhuqing moaned, and her delicate body went limp in Lu Yuan's arms. She allowed Lu Yuan to do whatever he wanted. When this cold beauty met Lu Yuan, she was like a cat that had met its real owner. She was exceptionally docile. They kissed for more than 10 minutes before Lu Yuan released Zhu Zhuqing. He couldn't help but kiss Zhu Zhuqing's forehead again before hugging her in his arms. Zhu Zhuqing didn't say anything. She lowered her head and buried it in Lu Yuan's chest. After being intimate with Zhu Zhuqing, Lu Yuan had the time to look at the others. Evil Moon, Ma Hongjun, Oscar, Ling Wei, Fu Qinsheng, Dugian, Yi Lingling, and the others were all present. They had all completed the test, and their abilities were basically at the level of Soul Douluo. Even Ma Hongjun and Oscar, whose soul power was slightly lower, were rank 79 soul sages. They had improved tremendously. After nodding at everyone and greeting them, Lu Yuan's gaze shifted slightly. Not far away, there was a beautiful figure wearing a red high priestess robe. She was looking at him expressionlessly. This beautiful figure's face was exquisite, and her aura was tranquil and elegant. She seemed to be all-encompassing. Her long blue hair reached her waist, and her beautiful blue eyes blinked gently. They were as deep and vast as the ocean. Who else could it be other than Pasizi? Pasizi stood alone and stared at Lu Yuan. There wasn't any fluctuation in her eyes, but there was an indescribable sense of oppression. Lu Yuan had already sensed her from the start. However, as an important person, Lu Yuan placed her last. Zhuqing. Lu Yuan rubbed Zhu Zhuqing's head and called out softly. Yes. Zhu Zhuqing acknowledged softly. She instantly understood what Lu Yuan meant. With a tinge of reluctance, she squirmed out of Lu Yuan's embrace. Lu Yuan kissed her again. After that, he watched as Zhu Zhuqing left his embrace and walked to one side. Whether it was Ning Rongrong, who Laina, or the current Zhu Zhuqing, his wives were all so sensible, which really made him feel relieved. It seems like I have to find an opportunity to reward them, Lu Yuan muttered to himself. He wore a smile on his face as he slowly walked towards Pasizi. Pasizi's expression was still calm as she watched Lu Yuan walk closer. However, there was a slight fluctuation in her eyes. Her heart couldn't help but beat violently. Lu Yuan stood not far from Pasizi. He smiled as he opened his arms. Long time no see. Do you want a hug of love? Chapter 12:27. Lu Yuan chuckled and opened his arms. His polychoria flashed as he carefully sized up Pasizi. Pasizi was still as beautiful as ever. Her jade-like face was exquisite and flawless. Her nose was smooth and tall, and her blue eyes were bright. Her long eyelashes fluttered gently, and Lu Yuan's figure was reflected in her eyes. And it seemed that because he was very close, Lu Yuan could clearly hear her rapid breathing. Although her expression was calm, her heart was quite restless. Give me a hug, Lu Yuan said with a smile. Hug your head. Pasizi bit her lower lip and scolded Lu Yuan. Then, Her figure flashed, and she disappeared. She hugged Lu Yuan in front of so many people, and she had to take the initiative to hug him. In the past, she might not have done it. Now that she was full of resentment, she was even more unwilling to do it. Pasizi also wanted to save face. How could she throw herself at him like Ning Rongrong and the others? She was not a little girl anymore. Interesting. I haven't seen you in a long time. You're getting more and more unique. Lu Yuan was not annoyed by Pasizi's lack of respect. He turned around and nodded at Hulina, Zhu Zhuqing, and the others. Lu Yuan took a step forward and his figure disappeared. Today, he was going to deal with Pasizi completely. After all, he came to the Sea God's Island mainly for Pasizi. He owed Pasizi an explanation, and today was the day to give Pasizi an explanation. Outside the Sea God's palace, Lu Yuan's figure suddenly appeared. Waving his sleeves, Lu Yuan looked at the solemn Sea God's palace in front of him and walked in. Pasizi stood facing the Sea God statue with her back facing him. Lu Yuan blinked and walked behind Pasizi. He gently hugged her. Pasizi's delicate body trembled. She lifted her foot and stomped down. Lu Yuan did not dodge, and Pasizi stepped on Lu Yuan's foot. After stepping on it, Pasizi deliberately rubbed it a few times. She gritted her teeth as if she wanted to vent all her resentment. Lu Yuan's mouth twitched. He did not know whether to laugh or cry. Pasizi's angry look was like a little girl. Sure enough, when it came to love, Poseidon was no different from other girls. But seeing the usually quiet and elegant Poseidon lose her temper like this, there was an indescribable cuteness to it. Lu Yuan allowed Pasizi to ravage his right foot. After a long while, Pasizi stopped moving. Lu Yuan hugged her from behind and held her motionless. Have you vented your anger? If you haven't, you can do it again. Lu Yuan whispered in Pasizi's ear. The hot air hit Pasizi's ear, causing Pasizi's delicate body to tremble. Her white and tender earlobe quickly turned red. So shy? Lu Yuan was surprised. Was this still the Pasizi who dared to kiss him? Lu Yuan was surprised. He quickly turned Pasizi's body over. He only felt that Pasizi's body was sore and weak, as if she had no strength at all. Lu Yuan's eyes flickered slightly, as if he understood something. He secretly glanced at Pasizi's earlobe and remembered it. Pasizi's beautiful face was also a little red. Lu Yuan's heart moved slightly. He kissed Pasizi's face and asked with a smile, "Did you miss me?" "No." Pasizi's face was red, but her tone was still cold. She glanced at Lu Yuan and said indifferently, "Impossible. You must have missed me." Lu Yuan quietly lowered his head, looked into Pasizi's eyes, and said with certainty, "You knew I missed you, but you still made me wait for you for so long?" It would have been better if Lu Yuan hadn't said anything. Now that he said it, Pasizi's anger came out again. Pasizi was angry, and she stomped hard on Lu Yuan's foot. She seemed to think it wasn't enough. She raised her fist and hammered Lu Yuan's chest. Her blue eyes angrily looked at Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan bitterly smiled and grabbed Pasizi's hand. He gently said, "I had something to do, so I couldn't leave. I came as soon as I had time. I didn't forget our agreement." "You still have a nerve to talk about an agreement? What kind of *T agreement was that? Why didn't you tell me you were going to do something so dangerous?" Pasizi angrily looked at Lu Yuan. She already knew about Lu Yuan's situation from the Sea God. She also knew what Lu Yuan was going to do when he said he was going to do something dangerous. He was going to fight against the entire God realm. It was simply a madman's action. When it came to fighting against the celestial realm, the slightest carelessness would have resulted in a terrible death. Fortunately, Lu Yuan had succeeded in the end. Otherwise, she might not have been able to see Lu Yuan again. So, the more she thought about it, the angrier she became. When she saw Lu Yuan again, the anger in her heart was so strong. Compared to that, Lu Yuan not coming to see her for a long time was only a small part of the reason. You know? Yes, the Sea God told you, right? Lu Yuan was slightly surprised at first, but then he suddenly realized. So what if it was the Sea God who told me? The ruler of the God realm, Lu Tiandi. What a big name. Pasizi coldly snorted and said in an inexplicable tone, "Actually, I prefer it when you call me Heavenly Emperor Yuan," Lu Yuan said with a smile. "I only said one thing, and you're really getting cocky, aren't you?" Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Bai Saishi's anger flared up again. He raised his foot and was about to stomp down again. Okay, I'm just kidding. Don't be angry." Lu Yuan hugged Pasizi's waist and laughed softly. "Umph." Pasizi snorted with a trace of arrogance in her expression. Lu Yuan looked at her with amusement. He raised his right hand and pushed Pasizi's hair from her forehead to her temples. He looked at her with a gentle gaze. "I know you'll definitely be angry after you find out. I also know that you care and love me, but I have no choice but to fight against the God realm. I didn't tell you because I wanted to protect you. I can accept failure and even death, but I don't want you to die with me. Do you understand? And if I really said that I was going to fight against the God realm, would you still let me go?" Lu Yuan asked faintly. "Of course not. I'll do my best to stop you," Pasizi said indifferently. "Yes, so how would I dare to tell you? If I told you, I don't know how you make a fuss." Lu Yuan sighed and said somewhat helplessly. Hearing this, Pasizi was slightly silent. She didn't say anything. What Lu Yuan said was the truth. However, when she thought about the possible danger of this matter, Pasizi still had lingering fear. Lu Yuan was really too reckless. Chapter 1228. Pasizi could not help but forcefully punch Lu Yuan when she thought up to there. She said angrily, "Do you know how worried I was when I found out what you did? I almost went crazy. Fortunately, the sea goddess told me in the end that you won." Otherwise what?" Lu Yuan asked with a smile. "Otherwise, if you die, I'll definitely follow you. I'll make you regret it even when you die," Pasizi said coldly. Uffed. Lu Yuan could not help but burst into laughter when he heard that. This was the first time he had heard something like that. However, after laughing, Lu Yuan's heart gradually warmed. Pasizi's words meant that if he died, she would definitely die for love. This truly moved Lu Yuan. "Sorry, I've made you worry. It won't happen again, I promise." Lu Yuan kissed Pasizi's forehead and said seriously, "That's more like it." Pasizi's expression eased up slightly when she heard that. She gently hugged Lu Yuan and said gently, "I know you're protecting me and worrying about me. I'm very happy about this." That day, when the 7 divine kings descended, I completely understood your thoughts. But on the other hand, I'm still very angry because I want to go through thick and thin with you. I've never loved a man so much in my life. After living for so many years, this is the first time I know how wonderful it is to truly love someone. If you die, my life really will be meaningless. From the very beginning, I've been living for the sea goddess. Everything I've done is for the glory of the sea goddess. My life has been monotonous and lonely. It was your appearance that allowed me to truly experience life, to experience happiness, and to understand just how wonderful the world is. I just want to live and die with you. If something happens to you one day, please take me with you. This is my last and only request. Don't refuse me, okay?" Pasizi looked straight at Lu Yuan. Her big blue eyes were sparkling, and her beautiful face was pleading. She looked so pitiful that people couldn't help but feel pity for her. Although Pasizi liked to show off her personality to Lu Yuan, she was very humble in her heart. She really didn't ask for much. It would be great if she could be with Lu Yuan, but if she couldn't, she would be satisfied if she could go through life and death with Lu Yuan and follow Lu Yuan forever. In the past, Lu Yuan was already very outstanding. Now, Lu Yuan was the God Realm's celestial emperor, the supreme ruler of heaven and earth. His status was extremely noble. She was only the sea god's divine servant. So how could she compare to Lu Yuan? A sense of inferiority arose in her heart. Lu Yuan also seemed to feel that something was wrong. He caressed Pasizi's face and asked, "Is that all you want?" "Yes, that's all I want. Can you agree to it?" Pasizi said gently. "No, I won't agree." Lu Yuan shook his head. Looking at Pasizi's suddenly pale face, Lu Yuan changed his tone and said, "Because such a day will never come. I will never die, and I will never let you die. Poseidon, do you still remember what we agreed on back then? Today, our agreement can be fulfilled. Lu Yuan gently lifted Pasisi's chin and looked at her exquisite face. His eyes flashed with deep affection. Pasisi, be my woman. Pasisi was stunned. Her beautiful blue eyes were filled with disbelief. She looked at Lu Yuan in shock. What? Did you not hear clearly? Lu Yuan smiled when he saw Pasisi's shocked expression. He said, then I'll say it again. Pasisi, are you willing to be my woman? Lu Yuan looked at Pasisi's eyes and said with a face full of love. Lu Yuan, are you serious? Lu Yuan repeated his words, which made Poseidon realize what he was saying. She was still in shock. This was something she had dreamed of. She had fantasized about it countless times. However, when this scene really appeared in front of her eyes, she felt that it was somewhat unreal. Lu Yuan actually wanted her to be his woman? Of course it's true. Is there a need to doubt it? I said that I would give you an explanation when I came to the Sea God's Island again. Since I said it, I will naturally do it. And just like you said before, you're not the only one who likes me. I also like you. Pasisi, I love you. Be my woman. Pinching Pasisi's chin, Lu Yuan lowered his head and said these words again. Lu Yuan's eyes were filled with love and aggression. Pasisi was completely immersed in it without any resistance. She loved Lu Yuan deeply. Now that she heard Lu Yuan's words, her heart was already unable to control itself. She stared blankly at Lu Yuan. For a moment, she couldn't help but lose her mind. Answer me, Pasisi. Are you willing? Lu Yuan continued. I'm willing. Pasisi gently spat out these 3 words in the face of Lu Yuan's extremely aggressive gaze. Her heart was filled with happiness. 2 streams of tears rolled down her pretty face. Those were tears of extreme happiness. She had liked Lu Yuan for so long. To be able to hear Lu Yuan's confession, her heart was filled with satisfaction. Even if she died now, she wouldn't have any regrets in her heart. You're actually crying, silly woman. Lu Yuan smiled as he wiped away Pasisi's tears. His eyes were filled with love. From this moment onwards, Pasisi was his woman. Pasisi stared blankly at Lu Yuan as he wiped away her tears. Her heart was filled with sweetness and joy. At the same time, she could no longer suppress the throbbing in her heart. The inferiority complex that arose from knowing Lu Yuan's identity as the Celestial Emperor was completely thrown aside. She directly raised her head and kissed Lu Yuan's lips. At this moment, she just wanted to kiss Lu Yuan. She just wanted to release the surging emotions in her heart to her heart's content. Being kissed by Pasisi, Lu Yuan was stunned at first. Then, he was overjoyed and quickly responded. The strange awkwardness just now disappeared. He could feel that the Pasisi he was familiar with had returned. The Pasisi who dared to love, dared to hate, and liked to kiss him forcefully for no reason was back. Lu Yuan was overjoyed. He directly held Pasisi's delicate body tightly in his arms and launched a fierce counterattack against Pasisi's red lips. The 2 people were completely intoxicated for a moment. This kiss lasted for more than 20 minutes. Pasisi was panting and her eyes were blurred. Lu Yuan held Pasisi's delicate waist with one hand and stroked Pasisi's long blue hair with the other. He gently kissed Pasisi's forehead, the tip of her nose, and finally landed on her red lips again. He stared at Pasisi, his eyes full of love. Chapter 1229. Pasisi enjoyed Lu Yuan's kiss. Her beautiful eyes were full of love. She had never been so happy as she was now. Deep joy and happiness welled up from the bottom of her heart. Looking at Lu Yuan's doting face, she only felt that everything was so beautiful. Lu Yuan kissed Pasisi's red lips. His double pupils flickered slightly. He couldn't help but raise his right hand and gently stroke Pasisi's snow-white, flawless face. Pasisi allowed Lu Yuan to stroke her beautiful face. Her beautiful blue eyes flashed with passion. Lu Yuan. Pasisi couldn't help but call out softly. What's wrong? Lu Yuan responded with a smile. Nothing. I'm just very happy in my heart. Pasisi said with a look of infatuation. Oh, How happy are you? Let me see. Lu Yuan teased and put his hand on Pasizi's chest. Pasizi's beautiful face suddenly turned red and her whole face became hot. She slapped Lu Yuan's hand away and looked at Lu Yuan shyly. Ro, Pasizi pouted coquettishly. There was still a faint blush on her face. How am I a rogue? Lu Yuan said with a smile. I'm close to my own woman. How can that be called a rogue? But I've underestimated you. Pasizi, your figure is very good. And your capital is very strong. Lu Yuan's tone changed and his face had a teasing expression. You're still talking. Being teased by Lu Yuan like this. Pasizi's beautiful face turned red and she glared at Lu Yuan. You're still glaring at me? What? Don't you like me being close to you? Lu Yuan asked with a calm face. His face was indifferent, and one couldn't tell whether he was happy or angry. Seeing this, Pasizi's heart tightened, and his little heart could not help but beat violently. Lu Yuan, are you angry? Pasizi asked worriedly. Could it be that she glared at Lu Yuan and made Lu Yuan unhappy? Thinking of this, Pasizi couldn't help but have some slight regret. Since I have become Lu Yuan's woman, isn't it too much for me to be so shy and guard against him? Sometimes, when you care too much about someone or something, it's easy to worry about personal gains and losses. For example, Pasizi now. Lu Yuan just looked calm, but she had already madly imagined it, afraid that Lu Yuan would be angry. Seeing Pasizi's worried expression, Lu Yuan felt a little funny. He deliberately continued to remain silent and did not answer. Seeing that Lu Yuan didn't respond, Pasizi became more and more convinced that Lu Yuan was angry. She bit her red lips and hesitated for a while. Pasizi said softly, Actually, I was quite happy when you were acting like a hooligan to me, but this is the sea goddess palace. It's not suitable for this. Lu Yuan, if you really want it, let's go somewhere else. Pasizi's voice was as soft as a mosquito's, but Lu Yuan still heard it clearly. In particular, her cautious manner, as if she was afraid of angering him, made Lu Yuan's heart soften. Pasizi's humility was a little pitiful. He just wanted to tease Pasizi, but he didn't think that Pasizi would become like this. Since when did Pasizi feel inferior? Lu Yuan scolded himself in his heart. He forcefully hugged Pasizi and gently kissed Pasizi's red lips. He said softly, Don't worry, I was just joking. I'm not angry, and I won't be angry at you. Lu Yuan stroked Pasizi's face and softly comforted her. Really? Pasizi asked doubtfully. She didn't feel anything when she was emotional, but now that she was really with Lu Yuan, her inferiority complex reappeared. Lu Yuan was the celestial emperor, and she was only a divine servant. The difference was too great, and she was extremely infatuated with Lu Yuan. She was in a weak position when it came to relationships, so she couldn't get rid of the feeling of inferiority in her heart. And because she was afraid of losing what she had, she became more sensitive and careful than before. Really, I won't lie to you. I love you, Pasizi. I will be with you forever. Lu Yuan said softly. His tone was full of affection. What Pasizi needed the most right now was his protection. Lu Yuan, you're so good. Pasizi's beautiful eyes were slightly moist. She couldn't help but hug Lu Yuan tightly, directly blocking Lu Yuan's lips. After a forceful kiss, Pasizi looked at Lu Yuan with flirtatious eyes. Lu Yuan, I want to be your woman right now. I want to be your real woman. What shyness. What modesty. She had already thrown it to the side. She only wanted to firmly hold onto Lu Yuan so that she wouldn't have to worry about being casually abandoned. And it was obvious that becoming Lu Yuan's real woman would allow her relationship with Lu Yuan to improve further. It would also deepen her position in Lu Yuan's heart. She loved Lu Yuan so much that it was all in her bones. Okay, I promise you. But before touching you, let's bow to the heavens and earth first. Consider it as giving you a status. Lu Yuan said with a smile. He didn't refuse Pasizi's request. He knew that this was the only way to make Pasizi feel a little more at ease. Is what you said true, Lu Yuan? Pasizi was a little surprised. She didn't expect Lu Yuan to say this. Being Lu Yuan's woman and being Lu Yuan's wife were two different things. After bowing to the heavens and earth, she would be Lu Yuan's real wife. Of course, I'm a very responsible man. Lu Yuan poked Pacizi's nose and chuckled. And from now on, put away your inferiority complex. My woman doesn't need to feel inferior. You're the best in the world. You should be confident. Pacizi, you're no worse than anyone else. It is my fortune to be with you. Lu Yuan's words were sincere, which touched Poseidon's heart. However, her stubborn sense of inferiority still lingered in her heart. But I am only a divine servant. You are the high and mighty heavenly emperor. I really feel that I am not worthy of you. Pacizi couldn't help but say. Although her cultivation was high, she was a divine servant. Normally speaking, it was impossible for her to become a god. And although Zhu Zhuqing and Hu Lina were weaker than her, their potential was limitless. They could all become gods in the end. How could she not feel inferior? Compared to Lu Yuan and Lu Yuan's other women, she seemed to be a little lacking. You don't think you are worthy? Lu Yuan looked at Pacizi with a dangerous gaze. He raised Pacizi's chin with one hand and said in a domineering tone, I don't want you to think, I want you to think. If I say you're worthy, then you're worthy. You, Pacizi, are my woman, one of the best women in the world. Who dares to oppose you? Prepare well and wait to be my bride. Plus, your identity as a divine servant of the sea god is coming to an end. How can my woman be someone else's divine servant? At the very least, you have to be a god king. Leave all of this to me. You don't have to worry about it. Chapter 1230. Lu Yuan said firmly. His tone was unquestionable. Pacizi had never seen Lu Yuan like this before, so she could not help but become slightly stunned. Did you hear that? Lu Yuan pinched Pacizi's chin and asked indifferently. I heard it clearly. Pacizi nodded blankly. This was the first time she had seen Lu Yuan be so domineering. She really wanted to obey him instinctively. She could not resist at all. However, at the same time, she felt very satisfied and sweet. Becoming Lu Yuan's wife was something she had always fantasized about, but it was actually going to become a reality now. Her heart could not help but throb a little. As long as you heard it clearly. Lu Yuan smiled. His expression became extremely gentle again. He lowered his head and gently kissed Pacizi's red lips. He said softly, You're not allowed to feel inferior in the future. As my woman, you can only be proud. You're the woman I've taken a fancy to. You're not inferior to anyone in this world. Even the sea goddess in the past was nothing before you. You don't need to believe in him because your status is already above his. You're my imperial concubine, the imperial concubine of the heavenly emperor. He's only your subject. Do you understand? I understand. Pacizi nodded obediently. She was extremely docile. Right now, she only felt that everything Lu Yuan said was right. There was no comparison between the sea goddess and Lu Yuan. Perhaps the sea goddess was her belief in the first half of her life, but Lu Yuan was the most revered god in her heart right now. She was willing to give up everything for Lu Yuan. Moreover, Lu Yuan was right. Although she was the divine servant of the sea goddess before, she was now Lu Yuan's woman. Her status was above the sea goddess. No matter how she looked at it, she could no longer believe in the sea goddess. The imperial concubine of the heavenly emperor believed in a mere sea goddess? If this were to spread, not only would Lu Yuan be ridiculed, but it would also push the sea god into the fire pit. If the sea god still wanted Pacizi to believe in him, even after knowing that Pacizi had become Lu Yuan's woman, then Lu Yuan would definitely crush him with one finger. The might of the celestial emperor could not be disgraced. This wasn't a question of whether Lu Yuan was willing to kill them or not. Rather, for the sake of stabilizing the God Realm's rule, the prestige of the heavenly emperor had to be supreme. Anyone who dared to offend him would undoubtedly die. Therefore, even the sea god himself no longer dared to accept Pacizi's faith because he wanted to live. That's more like it. Hearing Pacizi's reply, Lu Yuan smiled with satisfaction and gently pinched Pacizi's face. He only felt that it was warm and soft to the touch, smooth to the touch, and extremely elastic. Lu Yuan held Pacizi with one hand as he stared at the statue. He said indifferently, "Sea god, come out and see me." With that, the sea god's figure appeared. The figure was slightly illusory, but it was the consciousness that the sea god had left in the statue. "Greetings, Heavenly Emperor." The sea god's projection bowed to Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan looked at him calmly and said, "Sea god, I think you know why I called you out, right?" "I know," the sea god replied. He looked at Bai Saishi with a complicated look in his eyes. "Lord Sea God," Pasizi began gently, but before she could finish, the sea god interrupted her. "Imperial concubine, don't call me that. You're already the imperial concubine, so I don't deserve to be called that. I have something to tell you. From this moment onwards, you are no longer my divine servant. You are free," the sea god said with mixed feelings. A sliver of mixed feelings appeared in the depths of his eyes. His former divine servant had climbed over his head in the blink of an eye. Even though his mentality had always been good, he could not help but feel a little uncomfortable. Pasizi was much luckier than him. He never thought that he would actually gain Lu Yuan's favor. He was quite fortunate. Lu Yuan was the heavenly emperor of the God realm right now. He reigned supreme in the world with a lofty status and great strength. Pasizi's status rose as well as Lu Yuan's woman. Even as the sea god, he had to show respect to Pasizi. In the past, it was Pasizi who worshipped him. Now it was he who had to salute Pasizi. It would be strange if he did not have mixed feelings about such a huge contrast. However, he did not dare to disobey because he knew that his previous performance had changed Lu Yuan's impression of him from an excellent one to one of annoyance. If he still dared to jump around, perhaps Lu Yuan would really directly squash him to death. Since he had already reached this step, he would soon be able to leave the God realm and live a carefree life. He did not want to die now. That would be too much of a loss. So even though he felt uncomfortable, he had to do this. He was not strong enough, so he had to do it. "I'm free." Pasizi was stunned when she heard the sea god's words. A trace of confusion flashed through her beautiful blue eyes. Was she officially free of her status as a divine servant? "Yes, you are free. From now on, you belong to me." Lu Yuan extended a finger and gently tapped Pasizi's nose. Then he gently pressed her head against his chest. He knew that Pasizi would not be able to accept all of this in a short period of time. She needed time to digest it. Just as well, he would let her lie in his arms and slowly digest it. Lu Yuan gently stroked Pasizi's blue hair. He glanced at the sea god and said plainly, "You've done well this time. You know what to do. Tell me, what do you want? I can give it to you as a reward." "Thank you, Heavenly Emperor, but I don't need any reward. I just want the position of a god to be spread as soon as possible," the sea god said. "Oh. Looks like you can't wait to leave the God realm. All right, I promise you. In a month, Zhu Qing will inherit your position as the god of the sea. At that time, you will be free," Lu Yuan said casually. Zhu Qing had already become a titled Douluo. Her 9th soul ring was a rank 94 soul ring. Although she could accept the position of a god at rank 94, her foundation would be too unstable. She would have to wait until she reached rank 99 to inherit the position of a god. That was the minimum requirement. Furthermore, Zhu Qing did not have all of her soul bones. That was also a problem. It was very difficult for Zhu Qing to reach rank 99 within a month without affecting her foundation. She also had to assemble all of her soul bones. However, this was a small matter for Lu Yuan. It was as easy as lifting a finger. "Thank you, Heavenly Emperor." The sea god was delighted when she heard Lu Yuan's words. She hurriedly bowed to Lu Yuan. "It's just a small matter. Furthermore, it will benefit Zhu Qing greatly. You don't have to thank me." Lu Yuan shook his head. Zhu Qing was the one who benefited the most from this. Even if the sea god did not say anything, he would still do it himself. There was no need for the sea god to thank him. Chapter 12:31. If there's nothing else, you can take your leave now. Lu Yuan waved his hand and said softly to the sea goddess, "I'll be taking my leave now." The sea goddess bowed before disappearing with a single movement. Lu Yuan glanced at the statue of the sea goddess. Light flashed through his eyes as he gently stroked Pasizi's long, blue hair. Rumbles rang out from the boundless ocean. A man and a woman held hands as they slowly made their way along the shore. "Are you happy?" Lu Yuan held Pasizi's hand and asked with a smile. "I'm happy. I've never been as happy as I am right now." Pasizi smiled sweetly. Her beautiful, blue eyes blinked gently. They were filled with happiness. She had just bowed to the heavens and earth with Lu Yuan in front of everyone. She was now officially Lu Yuan's wife. Pasizi was filled with indescribable joy from the change in status. Coupled with the removal of her status as a divine attendant, she had severed all her shackles. She truly felt free and happy from head to toe right now. "Then how happy are you?" Lu Yuan gently smiled and asked. "Won't you know if you feel it for yourself?" Pasizi pulled Lu Yuan's hand and placed it on her chest. She looked at him with a hint of seduction in her eyes. You've changed again. You're not shy anymore?" Lu Yuan looked at her in surprise. She had been very shy not too long ago. "I'm your wife now. My entire being is yours. Why should I be shy?" Pasizi said gently, but her face was slightly flushed. It was very clear that she was not as indifferent as she made herself out to be. She was still a little shy. "Do you know that you're playing with fire? Do you know that it's very dangerous?" Lu Yuan wrapped his left arm around Pasizi's waist. His eyes were filled with intense aggression. "I will eat you until not even your bones are left," Lu Yuan whispered in Pasizi's ear. "Then come. What are you waiting for?" Pasizi replied softly with a hint of expectation in her tone. She had long wanted to be Lu Yuan's real woman. She wanted to give her most precious thing to the man she cherished the most. "Interesting. Looks like we don't have to wait until nighttime." Lu Yuan smiled and picked up Pasizi while he cried out in surprise. "Then I'll fulfill your request, woman." Lu Yuan gently kissed Pasizi on the lips, then took a step forward. The space around him changed, and in the next second, Lu Yuan appeared in a house on the sea god's island. Bang! The door was kicked open, and Lu Yuan walked in with Pasizi in his arms. The door automatically closed again, and Lu Yuan placed Pasizi on the bed. Looking at the beautiful Pasizi, Lu Yuan could no longer suppress the throbbing in his heart. He kissed her gently. Suddenly, the temperature in the house rose, and the feeling of spring was boundless. The next day, the dazzling sunlight woke the two of them up. Lu Yuan and Pasizi opened their eyes at almost the same time. Pasizi's beautiful blue eyes were filled with a trace of confusion. When she saw Lu Yuan, who was just inches away from her, she immediately smiled gently. She couldn't help but snuggle into Lu Yuan's embrace and snuggle up to Lu Yuan. "You're awake?" Looking at Pasizi's actions, Lu Yuan smiled and said gently, "Since you're awake, then get up. I'll make breakfast for you." "I don't want to get up. I want to hug you a little longer." Pasizi pouted and acted coquettishly. Lying in Lu Yuan's embrace like this was too comfortable. She couldn't bear to leave it all. "All right, then let's lie down a little longer." Lu Yuan agreed to Pasizi's request without hesitation. Moreover, to him, hugging Pasizi was indeed very comfortable. Pasizi's figure was extremely good. It wasn't inferior to Bibidan's, and it was filled with the mature charm accumulated over the years. However, this was the first time for Pasizi, and there was a strange feeling of inexperience. When these two feelings fused together, it was truly wonderful. "Lu Yuan, you're so good." Hearing this, Pasizi was overjoyed. She quickly kissed Lu Yuan's lips and looked at Lu Yuan with eyes full of adoration. Lu Yuan smiled and returned Pasizi's kiss. He smiled and said, "Don't call me Lu Yuan in the future. It's too distant. Change the way you address me." "Then what should I call you?" Pasizi asked in a low voice. "Call me husband. I like to hear that." Lu Yuan kissed Pasizi's forehead and said softly, That's fine." Thinking that she and Lu Yuan were already married and had already been honest with each other, Pasizi hesitated for a moment before agreeing to this title. "Then why don't you call me husband?" Lu Yuan touched Pasizi's nose and said with a smile, "Husband." Pasizi called out in a low voice. "Louder. I didn't hear you clearly." Lu Yuan's face had a smile. "Husband." Pasizi slightly raised her voice. Her soft voice went straight into Lu Yuan's heart and evoked some throbbing in his heart. Good girl, good wife. Lu Yuan pinched Pasizi's face and couldn't help but seal Pasizi's red lips again. It wasn't until noon that Lu Yuan held Pasizi's hand and slowly walked out of the room. Pasizi's movements were a bit awkward. While walking, she looked at Lu Yuan with hidden bitterness from time to time. Lu Yuan was a bit amused. Bursts of white light emerged from his palm and entered Pasizi's body. Suddenly, Pasizi's condition completely returned to normal. Seeing that Lu Yuan completely healed her in an instant, Pasizi couldn't help but pout and ask, "Since you have a way, why didn't you help me recover earlier?" After delaying for so long, she was in so much pain that she couldn't take it anymore. There's always a need for a little ritual to let you experience the sweetness and pain of love. It's your first experience, so it's a rare opportunity. You won't be able to experience it in the future, Lu Yuan said with a smile. Pasizi, is this what a normal person would say? Pasizi had a look of astonishment. Why is this man's brain circuit always so strange? Could it be that the thoughts of a genius are so different? Pasizi couldn't help but secretly think to herself. Looking at the astonished Pasizi, Lu Yuan smiled slightly and pulled her hand to a place not far away. He said that he would personally cook for Pasizi. Since he said it, he would definitely do it. She was his woman, so he naturally had to pamper her. Pasizi let Lu Yuan pull her. Since she became Lu Yuan's woman, then no matter what Lu Yuan did, she would follow behind Lu Yuan. She would follow Lu Yuan for the rest of her life. Leading Pasizi forward, they found a kitchen. Lu Yuan displayed his excellent cooking skills and made a sumptuous lunch, which surprised Pasizi. While Lu Yuan was powerful, his cooking skills were also quite good. At least after eating it once, she had already fallen in love with the taste. While eating, Baisaixi's beautiful eyes were fixed on Lu Yuan. This man was really a treasure trove that could never be dug out. Chapter 1232. After lunch, Lu Yuan and Pasizi held hands and began to walk slowly in the direction of the ring-shaped sea. The two of them chatted and laughed as they walked, and their mood was exceptionally happy. They had just gotten married, and everything was so beautiful. For the two of them, even the air seemed to be sweet. As long as they could stay together, even if they were in a daze, they would be happy for the whole day. Pasizi's face had a bright and beautiful smile, and she couldn't stop it. Her eyes and heart were filled with Lu Yuan's figure, and there was no gap between them. The two of them interlocked their fingers, and Pasizi gently snuggled up to Lu Yuan's body, occasionally speaking touching words of love. With their speed, they could have arrived at the ring-shaped sea in a moment, but they were delayed for more than an hour before Lu Yuan and Pasizi arrived. Hulina, Zhu Zhuqing, and the others were resting, and the arrival of Lu Yuan and Pasizi immediately attracted everyone's attention. Everyone quickly greeted Lu Yuan and Pasizi. Pasizi responded one by one, and her face was slightly red, and she was a little embarrassed. In the past, she used to face everyone as a senior, but now she was Lu Yuan's wife. She still couldn't react to the change in identity and needed time to adapt. In contrast, Lu Yuan was much more casual. He nodded to them and pulled Pasizi in the direction of Hulina, Zhu Zhuqing, and the others. Hulina, Zhu Zhuqing, and Ning Rongrong were gathered together, and their eyes were fixed on Lu Yuan and Pasizi in front of them. Senior Pasizi, how does it feel to be a newlywed? Hulina slightly raised her eyebrows, and there was a hint of teasing in her tone. Yes, Senior Pasizi, Obuchi is very powerful, right? Ning Rongrong blinked and said with a deep meaning. Pasizi blushed. She looked at Lu Yuan and couldn't help but lower her head. No matter how good her bearing was, no matter how indifferent she was, she couldn't withstand such teasing, especially when these people were her juniors. She still felt a little shy and embarrassed. All right, stop teasing her. She's not like you guys. She's thin-skinned. That's enough. Looking at Pasizi's shy look, Lu Yuan squeezed her hand and whispered to Hulina, and Ning Rongrong. Hulina glanced at Lu Yuan and said indifferently, "Tisk, you're starting to feel distressed." Yeah, he's already starting to protect her. Sure enough, the new generation replaces the old. Ning Rongrong sighed deeply and looked at Lu Yuan with resentment. With Senior Pasizi around, how could he still care about us? Hulina sighed slightly and looked at Lu Yuan as if she was looking at a heartless person, sad and sad. Looking at the two's performance, the corner of Lu Yuan's mouth twitched slightly. These two drama queens. Gently shaking his head, Lu Yuan looked at the two and said, "That's enough acting. If you continue to mess around, be careful that I'll spank your buttocks." With that, Lu Yuan's gaze drifted to the two's perky buttocks. The two women shrank back at the same time and put away their teasing expressions. Their expressions became very serious. Lu Yuan looked at the three and said, "Pasizi is now my wife, just like you, so you don't have to call her senior in the future. Not only is it estranged, but it's also strange. Just call her big sister. If that's the case, then I'll ask big sister Pasizi to take care of me in the future." Hulina smiled at Pasizi and stretched out her hand gracefully. Although Hulina liked to play around, she was also the most sensible. She would never object to Lu Yuan's decision, but would be the first to cater. Facing Hulina's outstretched hand, Pasizi also stretched out her hand and shook Hulina's hand. She said with a smile, "Please take care of me in the future." "No problem." Hulina showed a bright smile and slowly withdrew her hand. "And me, big sister Pasizi, please take care of me in the future. We can form an alliance and strive to better occupy Obuchi." Ning Rongrong stepped forward with a smile, held Pasizi's hand, and said softly. Pasizi was stunned and subconsciously looked at Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He flicked Ning Rongrong's forehead, and it hurt so much that she pouted on the spot. "It hurts." Ning Rongrong looked at Lu Yuan with dissatisfaction, and her icy blue eyes were full of complaints. "You're so naughty. You're asking for a beating," Lu Yuan said with some amusement. "Oomph, you only know how to bully me." Ning Rongrong snorted and threw herself into Lu Yuan's arms. She raised her small fists and punched him. Lu Yuan found it funny. He stretched out his right hand and gently held her, then kissed her forehead. Ning Rongrong immediately quieted down and lay motionless in Lu Yuan's arms. She was exceptionally obedient and docile. Seeing this scene, Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help but shake her head. There was a trace of smile on her cold face. Sure enough, Rongrong was still so unrestrained. No matter how noisy she was, Obuchi could immediately quiet her down with a kiss. Sure enough, Obuchi was Rongrong's natural nemesis. Zhu Zhuqing thought to herself. She took 2 steps forward and reached out her hand to Pasizi. "Big sister Pasizi, congratulations on getting what you wanted. From now on, we're a family." Zhu Zhuqing's personality was cold, but she was also more mature and steady. Her words and actions were quite graceful, and she pulled the relationship between them closer with just a few words. It wasn't that she wasn't good at socializing. She simply liked silence and didn't like to talk much. However, she still had the means to handle relationships. After all, she was born in a noble family and had been influenced by what she saw and heard. She still had some knowledge. "Thank you." Pasizi smiled and shook hands with Zhu Zhuqing. The three of them shook hands. Their relationship had indeed improved by quite a bit. They felt a little like a family now. Lu Yuan was naturally quite happy with this scene. He patted Ning Rongrong's little head in his arms and glanced at Hulina and Zhu Zhuqing. "This time, apart from letting you get to know Pasizi, there's another thing I want to do, and that is to help you increase your strength. Among you, Zhuqing is already at level 94. Zhuqing, within a month, I will help you increase your strength to at least level 99. At that time, you will be able to take the 9th test of the Sea God." Lu Yuan nodded to Zhu Zhuqing and said softly, "Okay, I understand." Zhu Zhuqing responded softly. Even though Lu Yuan's words were a little shocking, Zhu Zhuqing didn't hesitate at all. She had absolute blind trust in Lu Yuan. As for Nana, You're already at rank 90. In fact, you've been at rank 90 for a long time. The reason why you haven't broken through is because you're still waiting for my soul ring. I'll give it to you later. This is a spiritual type soul ring that's very suitable for you. It's over 700,000 years. Are you happy? Lu Yuan smiled as he looked at Hulina. Chapter 1233. Really? Hulina blinked her pretty eyes and asked in surprise. A 700,000-year spiritual type soul beast. It was a perfect match for her. Could it be the third-ranked Evil Eye Tyrant King? Hulina suddenly recalled that the Evil Eye Tyrant King, who was ranked third on the Savage Beast ranking compiled by Lu Yuan, was more than 700,000 years old. Furthermore, it was a pure spiritual type soul beast. This was probably the only spiritual type soul beast on the continent that was at such a level. Smart. You're indeed my Nana. It's the Evil Eye Tyrant King. It's the most suitable ninth soul ring for you. It's even more suitable for you than a god-bestowed soul ring. Lu Yuan looked at Hulina in admiration. Indeed, she was very smart. Furthermore, the Evil Eye Tyrant King would drop an external soul bone. It should be a vertical eye. It was also very suitable for Hulina. One soul beast for two spoils. It was an excellent choice. Hulina giggled after receiving Lu Yuan's praise. The Evil Eye Tyrant King's soul ring was delightful, but Lu Yuan's concern and praise made her even happier. Obuchi, you're so nice. I love you. Hulina blinked and winked at Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan smiled faintly and replied to Hulina with a meaningful look. Hulina immediately understood. She was thinking about where she should find a place to spend the night. This was their first time reuniting after a long time. She couldn't be careless. Obuchi, what about me? There's still me. Ning Rongrong, who was lying in his arms, panicked when she saw that Lu Yuan was silent and only focused on flirting with Hulina. She blinked her big, ice-blue eyes that resembled gemstones and looked pitifully at Lu Yuan. You're only rank 89. There's no hurry. Lu Yuan looked at Ning Rongrong and laughed. Obuchi. Hearing this, Ning Rongrong couldn't help but feel anxious. She stretched out her hands and hugged Lu Yuan's neck. Her red lips directly kissed Lu Yuan's lips, leaving behind a faint fragrance. Lu Yuan's body froze for a moment before he quickly reacted. He wrapped his arms around her delicate body and sealed her red lips. Only after a while did he gently release her. Looking at her pitiful appearance, Lu Yuan was a little amused. He asked softly, "What's wrong? Are you anxious?" Yes. I'm the weakest. I'm very pitiful." Ning Rongrong nodded her little head and said in a pitiful tone, "Who told you not to work hard?" Lu Yuan tapped Ning Rongrong's nose and said faintly, "I worked very hard. It's just that the two of them are too abnormal. Moreover, I'm an auxiliary type, so my cultivation is a little slow." Ning Rongrong pouted. She had just reached rank 89 at the age of 23. This cultivation speed was not slow. It was just that Hulina and Zhu Zhuqing's cultivation speed was faster. That was why her cultivation speed was slower. In fact, she had already surpassed countless people. With her talent, even without Lu Yuan opening the back door, she could definitely become a god. Her current talent was much higher than that of Oscar, who was also an auxiliary-type soul master. Food was a type of auxiliary-type soul master. Oscar was at most a second-level god. If nothing went wrong, he should be the food god. However, she could break through to the first-level god realm. There were also auxiliary-type gods among first-level gods. Ning Rongrong was qualified to inherit her position. However, according to Lu Yuan's thoughts, he naturally wouldn't let Ning Rongrong become a mere first-level god. Only the God King could barely enter his eyes. The position of the God King of Life was quite compatible with Ning Rongrong. It was also specially left for Ning Rongrong. The Goddess of Life had extremely strong healing abilities and had auxiliary effects. It wouldn't reject Ning Rongrong. Moreover, after the fusion, Ning Rongrong's weakness of being unable to attack would be completely eliminated. She would become a great expert. Even if her strength was far inferior to Hulina and the others, Even the weakest god king was much stronger than a first-level god. This was also the reason why the goddess of life and the others had a hand over their positions when he forgave the god king of destruction. At that time, Lu Yuan had already made arrangements for these positions. Looking at Ning Rongrong's pitiful and wronged appearance, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile. This little girl was very cute. Immediately, Lu Yuan stopped teasing her. He pinched a strand of Ning Rongrong's long hair and twirled it around his finger. He chuckled softly and said, "Of course I won't forget my baby Rongrong. I've also prepared a big gift for you. This time, I'll let all of you greatly improve your strength and maintain a stable foundation." As Lu Yuan spoke, his gaze swept across Hulina, Zhu Zhuqing, and the others. "I have a share too." Pasizi looked at Lu Yuan in surprise. "Of course, you're also my woman. Naturally, you have a share too." Lu Yuan chuckled softly and waved his hand. Suddenly, the space reversed. Lu Yuan, Pasizi, and the others were teleported to the Sea God Palace at the same time. "There are too many people. This time, the things are a little precious. I won't give them to you outside." As Lu Yuan spoke, he waved his hand, and a bunch of colorful balls of light appeared. Every ball of light contained a soul bone. Furthermore, they were all above the god rank. In particular, the 3 balls of light with green halos were extremely powerful. They belonged to the Wind Dragon's external soul bone, the Wind Dragon's wings. "Oh, I'm still missing one." Lu Yuan raised an eyebrow as he reached out and made a grabbing motion, traversing through boundless time and space to pull out another ball of blue light from the Dragon Valley. This was another divine-grade external soul bone, which was a pair of water dragon wings. Lu Yuan tossed the water dragon's wings aside and said gently, "The wind dragon's wings are for Zhu Qing, Nana, and Rongrong. The water dragon's wings are for Pasizi. As for the other soul bones, you can choose whatever you lack. Nana, Rongrong, try your best to absorb all the soul bones before you break through to become titled law. This way, it will be easier for Nana to absorb the evil emperor's soul ring. As for Rongrong, you can also absorb soul rings of a higher rank. It's relatively more worth it. All right, after you're done absorbing, I'll forcefully break through the 100,000-year level for all of your soul rings and soul bones. This will build a solid foundation for all of you. So work hard." Lu Yuan waved his hand and gestured for the 4 of them to do as they pleased. Hulina, Zhu Zhuqing, and the others looked at each other. In the end, Hulina went out first and chose the soul bone that she needed. Zhu Zhuqing and Ning Rongrong followed closely behind and chose their soul bones. Pasizi didn't hesitate any longer. She took the water dragon's wings. She already had a full set of soul bones, so this was the only soul bone that she could use. After taking the soul bones, the 4 of them sat on the futons and began to absorb the soul bones. Lu Yuan had nothing to do. He waved his hand, and a mirror appeared out of thin air. BB Dawn, Chihiro Snow, and the others' figures appeared. Lu Yuan looked at them with great interest. Chapter 1234. At the Marshal's Soul Palace, BB Dawn was bathing. BB Dawn lay in the bathtub, her long purple hair dripping with water. Her snow-white shoulders and exquisite collarbones were exposed to the water, exuding a shocking allure. BB Dawn moaned softly, her expression relaxed and languid. Suddenly, her delicate body trembled, and her pair of beautiful pink eyes revealed a trace of sharpness. However, she seemed to have thought of something, and the sharpness in her eyes gradually dissipated. A faint blush appeared on her face. "Little bastard, you really don't do anything decent," BB Dawn muttered, but she revealed her figure generously. She was now a god king, and she was a top-tier god king who had surpassed the evil god king. There was only one person in the world who could spy on her. She didn't need to think to know who that person was. Apart from Lu Yuan, who was already the heavenly emperor, there was no one else. Although she was cursing softly, since Lu Yuan wanted to see, she would naturally let Lu Yuan see. However, it was a little strange that a heavenly emperor wanted to peep at his own wife. What is this little bastard doing? Bibidon was curious. Her eyes flashed, and she looked in the direction of the sea god's island through the endless void. The first thing that came into view was Lu Yuan's handsome face with a smile on it. Bibidon opened her mouth, wanting to say something. However, her vision suddenly turned black, and the scene disappeared without a trace. Lu Yuan had unilaterally cut off the image, blocking Bibidon, so she couldn't spy on him anymore. Bastard! Bibidon pouted, and she couldn't help but slap the image. Instantly, water splashed everywhere, and flower petals shot out. Phew, what a coincidence! Luckily, I dodged quickly. After cutting off the image, Lu Yuan heaved a sigh of relief. He just wanted to see what Bibidon and Bibidon were doing. He didn't expect to see such a coincidence. It was a little awkward. Bibidon wouldn't think that he was a pervert, right? Although she was his wife, he still felt a little strange. But Dong'er's figure is getting better and better. I kind of miss it. Lu Yuan stroked his chin and blurted out. Among his women, Chihiro Snow and Gu Yuna were the most beautiful. Zhu Zhuqing had the best figure. Although Bibidon was not the best in terms of appearance and figure, she was the most attractive to him. In this aspect, Zhu Zhuqing was slightly inferior to Bibidon. His heart itched when he saw Zhu Zhuqing, but that was because Zhu Zhuqing's figure was too good and too alluring. In addition, he hadn't seen her for a long time, so the impact was huge. However, after a long time, his attraction would slowly decrease. However, Bibidon was a little special. Her attraction to Lu Yuan had never decreased. Instead, spending time with her made him even more infatuated with Bibidon. It had to be said that this was a very special phenomenon. After Zhu Qing finishes the 9 trials of the sea god, I'll take them back with me. I've only been away for a while, but I'm already missing them. Let's do that. As for now, let's see what Cher and Na are doing. With that in mind, Lu Yuan waved his hand lightly. Chihiro Snow and Gu Yuna's figures appeared on the surface of the mirror. The two of them were quite normal. They were leisurely sipping tea. When they sensed Lu Yuan spying, they smiled and greeted Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan smiled faintly and communicated with the two women through their eyes. It had to be said that this action fully displayed the super high level of tacit understanding between the three of them. Furthermore, if one wanted to play this kind of action, they couldn't do it without strength. This was a game that truly belonged to the strong. Not just anyone could communicate across such a long distance. The three of them chatted slowly. Time began to slowly pass. Before they knew it, an hour had already passed. Bibidon had also finished bathing. She was wearing a luxurious robe and holding a golden scepter in her hand. When Lu Yuan saw Bibidon, he immediately cut off the image, much to the surprise of Chihiro Snow and Gu Yuna. That bastard ran away again? Bibidon asked in an indifferent voice. Did something happen? Gu Yuna asked in a curious manner. He cut off the image as soon as he saw Bibidon. There seemed to be something interesting going on here. That pervert peeked at me while I was bathing. We're already an old couple, yet he's still playing this game, Bibidon snapped. As soon as these words came out, Gu Yuna and Qian Renshua immediately laughed together. After cutting off the image, Lu Yuan withdrew his thoughts and swept his gaze towards the 4 women who were absorbing the soul bones. God-tier soul bones contained a huge amount of energy. At least, that was the case for them. Hence, it would take a long time for them to absorb them. Lu Yuan scanned them one by one. They were all in good condition. The absorption of the soul bones was progressing smoothly. Lu Yuan was relieved. With a casual wave of his hand, he captured an endless amount of ice origin energy. Previously in the god realm, he could be considered to have successfully refined an ice-type super god weapon. However, the ice god's position was still at the first-tier god realm. This time, he wanted to use this free time to upgrade the ice god's godhood to the god king level. With a light wave of his right hand, a gorgeous ice blue godhood flew out. Lu Yuan tapped it lightly with his finger. Boundless ice origin energy frantically poured into the ice god's godhood and began to upgrade the quality of the godhood. Having already done this before, Lu Yuan appeared to be very familiar with the process. Under the infusion of ice origin energy, the ice god's godhood began to become round and transparent. The energy it exuded also became more and more tyrannical. Finally, at a certain point, the ice god's godhood blossomed with dazzling ice blue light and transformed into an ice blue god seed. The ice god's position had been completely upgraded from the over-god realm to the god-king level. "It's done," Lu Yuan muttered softly as he kept the ice god's divine seed. With this divine seed, he could officially face the Snow Empress. It had been a while since the Snow Emperor's resurrection, but they hadn't really interacted much. However, now that the Pacizi's matter had been resolved, it was time for the Snow Emperor. The Snow Emperor was deeply in love with him. Back then, she was willing to sacrifice herself for Chihiro, Snow, mostly because of him. Naturally, it was impossible for him to not feel it. The Snow Emperor's feelings were pure and passionate. It was the purest form of love. He couldn't bear to let down this relationship because he had also fallen in love with the Snow Emperor. He was a person like that. If he didn't feel anything, no matter how hard others tried, it would be useless. However, if he did feel something, he would never give up. He would only give up after obtaining it. He was determined to obtain the Snow Emperor. Although he had never openly expressed it, his thoughts had already been made clear when he took the position of Ice God from the previous Ice God, Lung Ningxuan. If he didn't like it, why would he have done so many things? Everyone knew that he hated trouble the most. He was a veritable lazy bastard. Something that could make him so concerned was definitely related to someone he cared about. As for who the position of Ice God was related to, it went without saying. Apart from the Snow Emperor, there was no one else. Chapter 1235. After carefully examining the Ice God's divine seed in his hand, Lu Yuan kept it in his astral ring. After the divine seed was formed, Lu Yuan turned his attention to Pacizi and the other three ladies. Hulina, Zhu Zhuqing, and the others were still trying their best to absorb the soul bone. On the other hand, Pacizi was almost done absorbing the soul bone. She was the strongest and only had one external soul bone, the water dragon's wing, to absorb. Hence, she was much faster at absorbing the soul bone. Lu Yuan examined Pacizi. His eyes blinked, and the corner of his mouth curled into a faint smile. Pacizi's aura was exceptional. She was truly a beauty with an aura. She was the kind of person who made people want to look at her. In terms of aura, perhaps only BB Dawn could compare to her. Right now, her eyes were slightly shut, and her long blue hair was draped to her waist. Her unique aura, which seemed to contain everything, really caught Lu Yuan's attention. He had just gotten together with Pacizi. The current Pacizi was very tempting and fresh to him. He couldn't wait to hug Pacizi in his arms and pamper her all the time. Lu Yuan watched Pacizi gently. Pacizi's aura was becoming denser and denser. Finally, accompanied by the sound of a bottleneck being broken, Pacizi's cultivation suddenly broke through from a rank 99 ultimate Douluo to the demigod realm. Moreover, she continued to improve in the demigod level, and her physique naturally transformed into a demigod's physique. The water dragon's wing that Lu Yuan gave to Pacizi wasn't simple. Although it couldn't be compared to the Class 1 God's Wing of the Water Dragon King that he had absorbed back then, this soul bone was still a Class 2 God's Bone. The energy it contained was relatively huge. After Pacizi fused with the soul bone, it was very normal for her to make a breakthrough in her abilities. Pacizi was one of the three remaining exceptional Douluo. Her talent and abilities were top-notch in the world. Her sea god martial soul was also a god-ranked martial soul that was on the same level as the Seraph. It was unbelievably powerful. Hence, Pacizi's abilities and foundations were already very solid. Hence, her foundations were very solid after a breakthrough. After many years of accumulation, her abilities directly reached the pinnacle of the demigod realm before she slowly stopped. At this moment, her soul bone had been completely absorbed. Following a cracking sound, two holes appeared on Pacizi's robe. Blue light flashed out of them. With a thought, Lu Yuan blocked the sea god statue and cut off the sea god's spiritual sense. What happened next wasn't something that the sea god could see. Indeed, the blue light became brighter and brighter. Two huge dragon wings extended from Pasizi's back. The huge dragon wings flapped gently, and dense water elements quickly gathered in the air. Pasizi's robe was slightly tattered, revealing her smooth, jade-like back. Pasizi opened her eyes slightly. Her blue eyes flickered with light. They were as wide and deep as the sea. "I've broken through." Pasizi couldn't help but open her eyes wide when she sensed that her abilities were many times stronger than before. "Yes, you're already a demigod." Lu Yuan smiled when he saw Pasizi's shocked expression. "Demigod," Pasizi muttered. After that, she glanced at Lu Yuan. There was a mixture of love and gratitude in her eyes. She was a little emotional. She had been stuck at the ultimate Douluo level for a long time. She thought that she would remain like that for the rest of her life. After all, the limit of a divine servant was rank 99. However, she had broken through. She had broken through to the demigod level that she had always dreamed of. However, she couldn't help but feel a deep sense of gratitude. It was all thanks to Lu Yuan that she was able to break through. If it weren't for this god-tier external soul bone, she probably wouldn't have been able to break through for a long time. "Thank you, Lu Yuan." Pasizi thanked him from the bottom of her heart. Lu Yuan frowned and asked, "What did you call me?" My husband." Pasizi was stunned. After that, she blushed and called out softly, "That's more like it." Lu Yuan's expression softened. He waved at Pasizi and said, "Come here." Pasizi paused. Under Lu Yuan's gaze, she obediently walked over to Lu Yuan's side. Lu Yuan grabbed her hand and pulled her into his embrace. After that, he kissed her red lips. This kiss lasted for more than 20 minutes. Pasizi was a little out of breath. After they separated, Pasizi's chest heaved up and down. She was panting quickly. "If you call me the wrong name again, I'll make sure you can't get out of bed for 3 days. Do you remember that?" Lu Yuan threatened fiercely. "Got it." Poseidon nodded, looking extremely docile and obedient. She was afraid of Lu Yuan's threat. Others might not know how powerful Lu Yuan was, but she knew that Lu Yuan definitely had the ability to make her unable to get out of bed for 3 days. Furthermore, a mere 3 days might be a piece of cake for Lu Yuan. The bloodline of the Dragon Clan was terrifying, especially Lu Yuan's 5-clawed Golden Dragon King bloodline. It was extremely terrifying. It wasn't unreasonable for this guy to have so many girlfriends. Lu Yuan flicked Pasizi's forehead and said dotingly, "That's a good girl. You're still so distant from me. You're asking for a beating." Pasizi smiled gently and lay quietly in Lu Yuan's embrace. She enjoyed the warmth of Lu Yuan's embrace. "Your soul bones have been absorbed. Next, I'll help you upgrade all your soul bones to the 100,000-year level. Be good and lie down. Do you understand?" Lu Yuan caressed Pasizi's delicate face and said gently, "Got it." Pasizi nodded and replied, "Okay." Lu Yuan nodded slightly. Light flickered on his right hand. Endless white light sprinkled down and enveloped Pasizi. Ordinary soul bones were originally unable to evolve. However, under the power of laws, everything became possible. Pasizi had a 100,000-year soul bone on her body. However, it was only one. It was obtained when she obtained her 9th soul ring. As for the other soul bones, they were all below the 100,000-year level. Of course, the other soul bones weren't low either. Only one of them was below the 50,000-year level. The rest of them were above the 50,000-year level. There were even 2 soul bones that had reached the 90,000-year level. The High Priestess of the Sea Gods Island still had some cards up her sleeve. The white light enveloped Pasizi, and endless energy directly entered the soul bones. This was the purest origin power of laws. Under this power, the soul bones in her body began to rapidly upgrade. In just a moment, they had all broken through to the 100,000-year level. However, Lu Yuan didn't stop there. Instead, he continued to upgrade them. A 100,000-year soul bone was only the basic level. A 900,000-year soul bone also belonged to the 100,000-year level. However, it was a world of difference. Since they had already been upgraded, he would upgrade them to the level that Pasizi could withstand at the current stage. Only then could he unleash all of Pasizi's potential to the greatest extent. This would allow her to become even stronger after she became a god. Chapter 1236. Pasizi was already a demigod, and the amount of energy she could withstand was still considerable. Lu Yuan casually channeled energy into her body and increased the quality of her 6 soul bones. Pasizi's body was glowing with white light as she lay in Lu Yuan's arms. She looked at Lu Yuan with her beautiful eyes, and there was a faint glow in them. This man is really too outstanding and too charming. It's as if there's nothing in this world that he can't do. The evolution of ordinary soul bones was unheard of, but it was very easy for him to do it. It was very ordinary. The energy surging within her body and the substantial increase in her physique were announcing that her 6 soul bones were rapidly improving. The feedback from the soul bones also made her physique stronger. Her strength, which was already at the peak of the demigod realm, showed signs of increasing again. Pasizi closed her eyes comfortably as she sensed the pleasure from the increase in her strength. She gently snuggled into Lu Yuan's arms. "Don't move." Lu Yuan gently patted Pasizi's head. There was a hint of reproach in his voice. "It's too comfortable. I can't help it." Positi looked up and pouted her lips. She looked pitiful and was acting coquettishly in front of Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan smiled helplessly. How could he resist Pasizi's whining? "Then you have to bear with it. If you move again, I'll spank you." Lu Yuan threatened her softly. "Oh," Pasizi responded. She looked very cute, as if she had been bullied. After she confirmed her relationship with Lu Yuan, her mentality was really becoming younger and younger. She was also becoming more and more like a little girl in love. Lu Yuan shook his head slightly. He raised his right hand and placed it on Pasizi's back. He hugged her with both hands. This way, he didn't have to worry about her moving around. Lu Yuan's fingertips passed through the hole in the back of Pasizi's robes and touched Pasizi's snow-white skin, causing their hearts to involuntarily tremble. Pasizi glanced at Lu Yuan, a faint blush appearing on her pretty face. Her beautiful blue eyes carried a trace of obscure longing. She and Lu Yuan had just talked in the morning, but she was still so sensitive. "Don't think too much. Calm your mind." Although Lu Yuan's heart was beating a little, he didn't show it on his face. He still poured energy into Pasizi in an orderly manner. "Oh," Pasizi said, "oh again." Her beautiful eyes looked at Lu Yuan tentatively, as if she wanted to see if he had any reaction, but from Lu Yuan's face, she didn't feel anything. However, no one knew better than Lu Yuan whether or not he felt anything special. He was just a little better at controlling his expression. Lu Yuan felt a little uncomfortable being sized up by Pasizi. However, with a good mentality, he successfully completed the task of upgrading Pasizi's soul bones. Pasizi's 6 soul bones were all upgraded by Lu Yuan to the 999,999-year level. They were only 1 year away from reaching the 1,000,000-year level. This was already Pasizi's limit. The 1,000,000-year level belonged to the god level. However, this level was still beyond the current Pasizi's reach. The huge upgrade of the 6 soul bones caused Pasizi's strength to soar once again, and she successfully entered the false god realm. The false god realm, also known as the quasi-god realm, was the last realm below the god realm. In the entire Douluo continent, the number of people who had reached the false god realm could be counted on one hand. Lu Yuan, Bibi Dan, Chihiro Snow, and the former Holy Ghost Church's leader, Cho Muyi, were only the 4 of them. Every person who inherited a god's throne from the false god realm was far stronger than ordinary gods. Bibi Dan and Chihiro Snow were clear examples. Their strength was absolutely strong among those of the same level. And now, Pasizi became the 5th person to reach the false god realm. It could be said that her path before inheriting a god's throne was extremely solid. After upgrading Pasizi's soul bones, Lu Yuan upgraded Pacizi's soul rings. With the power of laws, Pacizi didn't have to worry about her body not being able to absorb too many attributes. As long as Pacizi could withstand the pressure, her body would be able to absorb all of the energy perfectly. All 9 soul rings were upgraded to 700,000 years, which was also Pacizi's limit. Soul rings were different from soul bones. Under the same level, soul rings contained much more energy than soul bones. Furthermore, 9 700,000-year soul rings added up to a huge amount of pressure. With Pacizi's demigod body, she could only withstand so much energy at most, and this was with the 7 soul bones sharing the pressure. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for all of her soul rings to be upgraded to 500,000 years. The upgrade of her soul rings raised Pacizi's soul power from the early false god realm to the peak of the false god realm. She had truly reached the highest realm below the god realm. Lu Yuan was very satisfied with this situation, and Pacizi was naturally even more so. She looked at Lu Yuan with her watery eyes, and her love was almost overflowing. Lu Yuan gently stroked Pacizi's back and kissed her forehead. His dual pupils were observing the situation of the others. It took a long time for both their soul bones and soul rings to be upgraded. Among the remaining 3 girls, Zhu Zhuqing was the first to make a move. She lacked the least soul bones. Other than the external soul bone, she only lacked the right arm bone. This was also because she had always been by Lu Yuan's side, and Lu Yuan had taken good care of her. She had obtained more soul bones, so she was able to absorb them faster. Lu Yuan understood and patted Pacizi's little head. Pacizi pouted and stood up reluctantly. Her smooth back was still exposed, and Lu Yuan didn't mind it. However, in front of Zhu Zhuqing, he still had to be careful. Pacizi withdrew her dragon wings, and Lu Yuan pointed a finger at Pacizi's back. The hole on her back quickly healed, and her clothes were restored to their original state in the blink of an eye. Lu Yuan took a doting glance at Pacizi before turning his attention to Zhu Zhuqing. Zhu Zhuqing just so happened to open her eyes at this moment, and the two of them looked at each other. Zhu Zhuqing's aura surged naturally, and she had already reached rank 98. The 2 Class 2 God rank soul bones had raised her soul power by 4 ranks, and she was only a step away from rank 99. Looks like this soul bone contains a lot of energy. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. Pacizi was able to reach the pinnacle of the demigod stage because of the water dragon's wings. However, the rest of it was due to Pacizi's own accumulation. On the other hand, Zhu Zhuqing relied entirely on the 2 Class 2 God rank soul bones to raise her soul power by 4 ranks. This wasn't a small increase, but it was still a Class 2 God rank soul bone, so it wasn't strange for her to have such an increase. Chapter 1237. Furthermore, Zhu Zhuqing's physique was pushed to the level of a demigod with the activation of 2 Class 2 God-ranked God bones, as well as the effects of the Life Spirit Crystal and the Narcissus Jade Flesh Bone. It wasn't easy to attain a demigod body, but it was different with so many external aids. Zhu Zhuqing managed to attain a demigod body at rank 98. She became the second person after Lu Yuan to forge a demigod body before becoming a demigod. However, Zhu Zhuqing's record would probably be broken soon as she saw Hulina and Ning Rongrong not far away. At this point, the more soul bones she lacked, the more advantageous it would be, as she could absorb more God-ranked soul bones. With so many God-ranked soul bones, it was impossible not to attain a demigod body. Furthermore, Hulina had absorbed the Life Spirit Crystal, the Yearning Heartbroken Grass, and the Crystal Blood Dragon Ginseng. Before Lu Yuan came, she was already one step away from attaining a demigod body. As long as she became a titled soul master, she would definitely attain a demigod body. Now that she had the help of a few God-ranked soul bones, as long as Lu Yuan completely activated the effects of the Yearning Heartbroken Grass and the Crystal Blood Dragon Ginseng in her body, she might be able to attain a godly body from the titled Douluo level. She wouldn't attain a demigod body, nor would she attain a pseudo-godly body. She would attain a true, godly body. Apart from Lu Yuan, Bibi Dan was one of those who could forge a godly body below the god rank. This was because of his god-ranked soul rings and god-ranked soul bones. Chihiro Snow was another because of the angel god crystal. Hulina would be the next. As for Ning Rongrong, she only had her skull and torso bones now. After absorbing 5 god-ranked soul bones, including the wind dragon wings, and with Lu Yuan's help to upgrade her soul rings, she would probably be able to attain a pseudo-godly body even if she had a weak constitution. Zhu Zhuqing seemed to be a little weaker in this regard. However, Lu Yuan would naturally help her make up for this weakness. After upgrading both her soul rings and soul bones, with his help, it shouldn't be difficult for Zhu Zhuqing to attain a pseudo-godly body at rank 99. Why did she have to attain a pseudo-godly body before becoming a demigod? This was because only then would she have a chance to push her constitution to the god rank when she reached the pseudo-godly realm. A cultivation at the pinnacle of the pseudo-godly realm and a god rank constitution were theoretically the most solid foundations to become a god. Of course, Lu Yuan would do his best to help his women reach this level as much as possible. With these thoughts in mind, Lu Yuan looked at Zhu Zhuqing again. His eyes were filled with love and tenderness. Zhu Zhuqing's S was SSSS. She's as though Luo's is. As she thought of this thought, she looked as she looks Luo Lin. Well, Luo S's S soul, come here. Lu Yuan waved at Zhu Zhuqing. Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing could not help but bite her lips, and a faint blush appeared on her cold face. She glanced at Poseidon, a little embarrassed. However, seeing how determined Lu Yuan was, and thinking that Pasizi wasn't an outsider, Zhu Zhuqing suppressed the shyness in her heart. She strode over to Lu Yuan and lay in Lu Yuan's arms. Lu Yuan hugged Zhu Zhuqing's soft and alluring body and felt a wave of satisfaction in his heart. Smelling her delicate fragrance, Lu Yuan couldn't help but kiss Zhu Zhuqing's red lips. Only then did he look at her lovingly. Rank 98. Not bad. I'll help you upgrade your soul rings and soul bones to at least 100,000 years. You should be able to reach rank 99, or even become a demigod. After that? Zhu Zhuqing asked softly. After that, you and Pasizi will dual cultivate with me. In a month's time, I'll help Pasizi attain a god-tier physique. You'll do the same. You'll break through to the semi-divinity realm and attain a god-tier physique. Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing's face instantly turned red. Baisaixi's face also turned red. Together with them? Obuchi, that's not good, right? Zhu Zhuqing retorted softly. What's not good about it? This is the fastest and safest way to increase your strength. At the same time, it won't affect your foundation. Do you have a different opinion? Lu Yuan pinched Zhu Zhuqing's chin and asked. Dual cultivating with him was definitely the easiest and safest way to increase their strength. Under such circumstances, his power of laws would be the most gentle way to increase their strength and nourish their physiques. It was much better than using his power to forcefully increase their strength. I'm just... Zhu Zhuqing bit her lower lip. She wanted to explain, but she was interrupted by Lu Yuan. All right. I know you're shy, but increasing your strength is more important. Besides, Pasizi is also one of us. It'll be fine once you get familiar with him. Lu Yuan gently stroked Zhu Zhuqing's long black hair and said softly, All right then. Since he had already put it this way, Zhu Zhuqing couldn't refuse anymore. Although she was indeed shy, what Lu Yuan said was right. Compared to increasing her strength, this shyness didn't mean anything. It was just that her face was still burning. She couldn't help but lower her head and bury it in Lu Yuan's embrace. Lu Yuan found it funny. He rubbed Zhu Zhuqing's head gently. Then he glanced at Pasizi, who was also blushing, and pulled him into his embrace. Hugging left and right, he was really happy. The sky gradually darkened. After that, it lit up again. A day passed in the blink of an eye. Hulina and Ning Rongrong had also finished absorbing their soul bones. Just as Lu Yuan expected, their physiques had made great breakthroughs. Hulina directly broke through to the quasi-god body. Ning Rongrong also reached the peak of the demigod body. Her cultivation had also broken through to rank 90. At this stage, he could absorb their 9th soul rings. Hulina's soul ring had already been decided. It was the evil emperor, the evil-eye tyrant king. Lu Yuan reached out with his right hand and traversed boundless space. He directly grabbed the evil emperor from the evil demon forest in the Sun-Moon continent. At his level, whatever he wanted to take, it was truly within reach. Is this the evil emperor? Looking at the evil-eye tyrant that was only 2 meters tall, Hulaina's pink eyes were filled with doubt. The evil emperor was so small? There's no need to doubt. This is the evil emperor. Its body is very big, and its long tentacles are hundreds of meters long. However, it's because it's too big that the sea god's palace can't contain it. That's why I forced it to shrink. Lu Yuan could tell that Hulina was doubtful. I see. Hulina nodded in realization. After that, she checked the evil-eye tyrant king's aura. She realized that it was shockingly strong. It was definitely at the peak of the demigod realm. It seemed like it was the evil emperor. Chapter 1238. All right, finish him off. Then absorb his soul ring. Lu Yuan looked at Hulina with a gentle gaze as he spoke softly. Okay. Hulina nodded her head vigorously. With a long sword in her hand, she directly pierced it into that huge vertical eye of the evil emperor. The evil emperor was very strong, but he couldn't unleash all his abilities after being captured by Lu Yuan. In addition, Hulina's sword was a genuine Class 9 soul tool. Hence, Hulina ended the evil-eye tyrant king's life with just one strike. Hulina pulled out her sword, and a blood-red soul ring surfaced from the evil-eye tyrant king's body. There were 7 golden light patterns revolving around it. This meant that this soul ring was more than 700,000 years old. Hulina sat down cross-legged, and her 9-tailed heavenly fox was immediately attached to her body. 8 black, red, and red soul rings shone brightly beneath her body. Her soul rings were a little more exaggerated than normal soul masters because of the rewards from the top-notch 8 trial, just like Pasizi's soul rings. After Hulina completed the top-notch 8 trial, her soul rings would increase in age. However, with Lu Yuan around, all of her soul rings would be more than 100,000 years old before she completed the top-notch 8 trial. These small rewards were nothing. Hulina waved her hand gently, and the evil-eye tyrant king's soul ring was placed on top of Hulina's head. Surging soul ring energy was quickly released. Hulina closed her eyes slightly and circulated her soul power. She started to absorb the soul ring's energy. Hulina already had a pseudo-godly body. Furthermore, her spiritual power was relatively high. Lu Yuan wasn't worried about her absorbing the soul ring at all. He clapped his hand casually, and a soul bone in the shape of a vertical eye fell out of the evil-eye tyrant king's body. This was an external soul bone, and it was an external skull bone. Lu Yuan grabbed the vertical eye. He could not help but raise his eyebrows when he sensed the vigorous mental power and the slightly impure space-time energy inside. Are you going to come out yourself? Or do you want me to completely erase your existence? Lu Yuan said calmly as the white light in his hand quickly poured into the vertical eye. An illusory figure of an evil eye was ejected. It glared at Lu Yuan, its eyes full of hatred. Very good. It seems like you've made your decision, Lu Yuan said as he erased the evil-eye tyrant king's soul under the horrified gaze of the evil-eye tyrant king. Originally, Lu Yuan was going to spare its life out of benevolence and let it live freely in the god realm after it was resurrected. It could be considered as compensation for taking its soul ring. However, when he saw its venomous eyes, Lu Yuan instantly lost his mood and directly killed it. In any case, it was just a matter of raising his hand. What he cared about was the survival of all soul beasts. He didn't care about the life and death of one soul beast. It didn't matter if he killed it. After all, the evil-eye tyrant king had killed many soul beasts. Its personality was also extremely vile. It wasn't a big deal to kill it. Wasn't the world of soul beasts a place where the strong preyed on the weak? It was just a normal thing to do. Gu Yuna was the ruler of the soul beasts. But hadn't she enjoyed the soul beast meat she'd eaten with Lu Yuan? Cough, cough, I digressed. After erasing the evil-eye tyrant king's soul, Lu Yuan casually tossed the vertical eye out. The vertical eye flew out and landed on Hulina's forehead before fusing into it. The evil-eye tyrant king was a spiritual-type soul beast. The soul bones that he produced also contained immense spiritual power. After refining his soul ring and soul bone, Hulina's spiritual power would probably make a huge breakthrough. Hulina was on the right track. Lu Yuan looked at Ning Rongrong, who was looking at him pitifully. He waved at her. Ning Rongrong immediately smiled and pounced forward. Sit down cross-legged. I'll help you form your 9th soul ring. Lu Yuan said gently as he rubbed Ning Rongrong's head. Okay. Ning Rongrong nodded and sat down obediently. Lu Yuan tapped his finger lightly. Streaks of energy gathered, and a golden ball of light flew out. It landed on Ning Rongrong's head and flickered with light. Ning Rongrong hurriedly released her martial soul. The 9 treasures glazed pagoda exuded a bright light. 8 soul rings, purple, purple, black, black, red, and red, rippled beneath her body. Her soul ring combination was slightly inferior to Hulina's. After all, she was only a 7th-ranked soul master. However, it was enough for her to look down on countless other soul masters. Lu Yuan extended his finger, and the golden ball of light flickered. After that, it turned into a blood-red soul ring that wrapped around Ning Rongrong's body. It started with a 100,000-year soul ring. However, it would depend on Ning Rongrong's abilities to see how strong it would be. However, her soul ring was still as strong as a peak-stage demigod. Ning Rongrong closed her eyes and entered a meditative state. She started to absorb her soul ring. Lu Yuan looked around. Finally, his gaze stopped on Zhu Zhuqing. His eyes were burning and carried an inexplicable sense of invasiveness. Obuchi, don't mess around. Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help but tremble. This was the Sea God's Hall. It wasn't a place to do such things. What's wrong? Are you scared? Looking at Zhu Zhuqing, Lu Yuan asked with a smile. I'm afraid. This isn't the right place. Zhu Zhuqing nodded her head seriously. Then why don't we go somewhere else? Lu Yuan suggested with a smile. Zhu Zhuqing still shook her head and said, That's not good. Nana and Rongrong are absorbing their soul rings. We shouldn't leave. Otherwise, they'll be unhappy if they don't see you when they wake up. She really wanted to be close to Lu Yuan, but her rationality told her that this wasn't the time. You're really sensible. Lu Yuan smiled. His smile was gentle and calm. He looked at Zhu Zhuqing with a hint of admiration. He was just joking, but Zhu Zhuqing's performance made him very satisfied. Zhu Zhuqing was still the same Zhu Zhuqing. She was a girl who understood the big picture. I was just teasing you. Come over. I'll help you upgrade your soul bones and soul rings. Lu Yuan said with a smile. Okay. Zhu Zhuqing didn't reject this time. She nodded and slowly walked towards Lu Yuan. In the blink of an eye, another month had passed. In this month, with Lu Yuan's help, Hulina and Ning Rongrong's soul rings and soul bones had all been upgraded to over 100,000 years. Hulina had successfully broken through to the divine body realm, and her cultivation had also reached the semi-divinity realm. Ning Rongrong was slightly weaker, but her cultivation had also reached the demigod realm. Her physique had also reached the semi-divinity realm. Pasizi's physique had also reached the divine body realm. Lu Yuan's dual cultivation was ultimately very effective. Zhu Zhuqing was Lu Yuan's main focus. Her cultivation had reached the pinnacle of the semi-divinity realm, and her physique had broken through to the divine body realm. She had laid down the most solid foundation before becoming a god. Chapter 1239. At this point, she could finally take the 9 trials of the sea god. Speaking of which, Lu Yuan didn't actually want to give Zhu Zhuqing the deity position of the sea god. Instead, it was more suitable for Pasizi. However, everything had a beginning and an end. Since she had accepted the 9 trials of the sea god and completed the 8th trial, she should work hard and complete all 9 trials. Otherwise, wouldn't all her previous efforts have been in vain? Inheriting the deity position wasn't a problem. Even if Zhu Zhuqing inherited the position of the sea god, Lu Yuan could still easily help Zhu Zhuqing change the deity position. Pasizi was no longer a divine servant, but she had been a divine servant for most of her life. She had a strong sense of responsibility. Only when the deity position of the sea god was completely passed on and her duties were completed could she be considered to be completely free. From then on, she would wholeheartedly be Lu Yuan's woman. It was because of this that Lu Yuan was committed to helping Zhu Zhuqing complete the 9 trials of the sea god. Even if it was to draw a truly perfect conclusion to all of this, Lu Yuan and the others gathered in the sea god's temple. Lu Yuan stood in front of the statue of the sea god with his hands behind his back. Zhu Zhuqing and Pasizi stood on either side of him. Hulina and Ning Rongrong stood behind him, all of them staring intently at him. Today was the day that Zhu Zhuqing would take the 9 trials of the sea god. Go, Zhuqing. Lu Yuan nodded at Zhu Zhuqing. Yes. Zhu Zhuqing nodded softly and stepped forward. Lu Yuan waved his right hand, and the sea god's trident appeared in his hand. If she wanted to take the 9 trials of the sea god, she couldn't do without the sea god's heart. This was an important item of the sea god's inheritance. With it, the difficulty of the 9 trials of the sea god would be reduced significantly. He tossed the sea god's trident into Zhu Zhuqing's hand. Zhu Zhuqing caught it and looked curiously at the super divine weapon that had disappeared when she first obtained it. Sea god, you may begin, Lu Yuan said indifferently. Yes, Celestial Emperor. The sea god's voice rang out from the statue. Lu Yuan's eyes flashed, and he grabbed lightly with one hand, opening the path to the temple of the sea god. The dimensional door opened, and a golden light enveloped Zhu Zhuqing. Her body suddenly disappeared on the spot. With Lu Yuan around, it was naturally impossible for Pasizi to sacrifice himself. The reason for the sacrifice was that the Inheritance Temple was located in a special zone between the Divine Realm and the Douluo continent, and only a limit Douluo could open up a path to the Inheritance Temple. But to Lu Yuan, this was as easy as lifting a finger. Lu Yuan waved his hand, and the scene inside the Inheritance Temple was reflected in everyone's eyes, including the test that Zhu Zhuqing had gone through. The test was very simple, and Zhu Zhuqing's assessment went smoothly. Soon, Zhu Zhuqing entered the process of modifying her soul bones. This process was a little painful, but it wasn't a big problem with Zhu Zhuqing's tenacity. 7 soul bones, including the wind dragon wings, were modified by the power of the sea god and turned into a dazzling set of sea god's divine armor. The moment the set of divine armor was completed, Zhu Zhuqing completed all 9 tests and became the new sea god. A strong godly aura rose from Zhu Zhuqing's body. An enormous figure appeared in the sky above the sea god's island. This figure was tall and slender, and her face was cold and exquisite. She held a huge golden trident in her hand, and her aura was monstrous. Everyone on the sea god's island knelt down and kowtowed to congratulate the new sea god. Many aquatic soul beasts in the sea also kowtowed and offered their purest and most sincere faith. She's a second-tier god, not bad. Lu Yuan nodded his head in satisfaction when he felt the strength of the aura. She had just inherited the deity position, and she already had the strength of a second-tier god. She wasn't any weaker than Chihiro Snow back then. If she went through the baptism of immortal spiritual energy, her strength should be quite impressive. After Zhu Zhuqing completed all 9 tests, Ning Rongrong and Hulina also completed their final tests, and the rewards were given out. To Hulina and the others, the final rewards were naturally nothing. However, The completion of the tests also meant that their trip to the sea god's island was complete. Lu Yuan's gaze swept over them, and then he squeezed Pasizi's hand and pulled her into his embrace. "You don't have any regrets now, right?" Lu Yuan said with a smile as he kissed Pasizi's forehead. "No, I'm very relaxed and satisfied now." Pasizi smiled sweetly and lay quietly in Lu Yuan's embrace. The deity position of the sea god had been passed out, and all of her responsibilities had been removed. She was extremely relaxed. Hearing this, Lu Yuan smiled and hugged her tightly. Suddenly, a light flashed, and Zhu Zhuqing's figure appeared. She was dressed in gorgeous divine armor and held the sea god's trident in her hand. She was quite valiant. "Very good, as expected of Zhuqing. You're really beautiful." Lu Yuan smiled with satisfaction, and then his expression became serious. He said, "Since you've completed the 9 tests of the sea god, I'll get down to business. I'll give you the most suitable deity position." As soon as Lu Yuan finished speaking, he flipped his right hand and 2 god seeds, one red and one white, flew out. Deity position fusion. Lu Yuan pointed casually, and the azure deity seed flew directly into Hulina's body and fused perfectly with her. Hulina's body trembled, and she quickly sat down cross-legged. She entered a meditative state and absorbed the azure deity seed's power and profoundness. Deity position deprivation. Lu Yuan pointed, and the newly merged sea god's godhead flew out from Zhu Zhuqing's body and into Lu Yuan's palm. Immediately, Zhu Zhuqing's aura plummeted, and Lu Yuan pointed again. Deity position fusion. The white deity seed entered Zhu Zhuqing's body and fused perfectly with her. Zhu Zhuqing's aura soared, and she sat down cross-legged to absorb the deity seed's power. Lu Yuan held the sea god's godhead in his hand, and he channeled an endless amount of origin energy into it. He began to forcefully upgrade the sea god's godhead. Under Lu Yuan's strong control, the sea god's godhead began to transform. The energy and profoundness it contained became more profound, and the aura it exuded became stronger. Soon, after absorbing enough origin energy, the sea god's godhead turned into an azure deity seed, and Lu Yuan held it in his palm. It had successfully evolved to the deity king realm. Little she absorbed it. Lu Yuan held the sea god seed and pressed it against Pasizi's forehead. Pasizi looked at Lu Yuan with her beautiful blue eyes, and her eyes were filled with love. She kissed Lu Yuan gently, and then lifted her head slightly, and the sea god's seed entered her forehead. "Go and refine it." Lu Yuan kissed Pasizi's red lips and said gently. Pasizi nodded and then sat down cross-legged. She entered a meditative state and began to absorb the sea god's seed's power. Chapter 1240. Zhu Zhuqing, Hulina, and Pasizi had all entered a meditative state. Lu Yuan swept his gaze over them one by one before finally stopping on Ning Rongrong. Ning Rongrong blinked her large, ice-blue eyes and looked straight at him. Her jade-like face was filled with a pitiful expression. "Obuchi." Ning Rongrong tugged on Lu Yuan's sleeves as she called out softly. Her gentle voice carried a hint of pity, and there was a hint of longing in her watery eyes. "Don't look at me like that. It's your fault for being only at the half-god realm. If you were at the semi-divinity realm, I would have let you inherit the godhood throne as well." Looking at Ning Rongrong's pitiful expression, Lu Yuan couldn't help but chuckle softly. There wasn't much of a difference between semi-divinity realm pinnacle and semi-divinity realm. However, the difference between semi-divinity realm and semi-divinity realm was too great. If Ning Rongrong were to inherit the godhood throne now, it would affect her potential after she became a god. And of course, Lu Yuan wouldn't do such a thing. "Let's wait a little longer. I'll give you the godhood throne once you reach the semi-divinity realm." Lu Yuan stretched out his right hand and pinched Ning Rongrong's cheeks as he spoke gently. Ning Rongrong's face was smooth, soft, and bouncy. It was filled with collagen, and it felt extremely good to touch. Lu Yuan couldn't help but fall in love with it. How long do I have to wait then? Oomph, I can't wait any longer. Ning Rongrong snorted as she leaped into Lu Yuan's embrace. She wrapped her arms around Lu Yuan's neck as she kissed Lu Yuan with her tender red lips. Their lips pressed together, and a soft fragrance filled the air. Lu Yuan struggled to break free as he looked at Ning Rongrong helplessly. Rongrong, this is the ocean god's palace. Are you crazy? How else can I raise my strength quickly? Besides, this is the ocean god's palace. Isn't it exciting? Ning Rongrong whispered softly as a strange glint flashed across her eyes. Lu Yuan's eyes trembled, and he looked at her with a little astonishment. Rongrong was still bold. Looking at Zhu Zhuqing, Hulina, and Pasizi in the hall, Lu Yuan's heart trembled again. He couldn't help but have a strange feeling. After a moment's hesitation, Lu Yuan's spiritual energy surged out and shielded the entire sea god's palace. Seeing this, Ning Rongrong giggled and kissed Lu Yuan's lips again. 1 month later, he was still in the sea god palace. Ning Rongrong suddenly opened her eyes. Her ice blue eyes flashed, and a powerful aura surged from her body, bringing with it an indescribable pressure. Although the pressure was extremely strong, the dense life force on her body made her give off an extremely intimate feeling. Fresh, beautiful, warm, and full of vitality. This was the first impression that Ning Rongrong gave people. In a month's time, under Ning Rongrong and Lu Yuan's unremitting efforts, Ning Rongrong finally broke through to the false god realm, forged a divine body, and then absorbed the divine seed of life. Now, under the baptism of the immortal spiritual energy that Lu Yuan had extracted, she had completely inherited the power of the divine seed of life and become a true god king. Although she was originally an auxiliary-type soul master, she had now become a powerful god king. Although her strength was definitely not comparable to Zhu Zhuqing and the others, she could be said to be invincible under the god king realm. With such a powerful strength, she could be said to have realized the dream of the 9 treasures glazed sect. There was probably no one more outstanding than her among the auxiliary-type soul masters. Obuchi, I broke through. Ning Rongrong had just opened her eyes, and her gaze was fixed on Lu Yuan. Then, she jumped into his arms, and her face was filled with unconcealable joy. Are you happy now? Lu Yuan kissed Ning Rongrong's forehead and said with a smile, Yes, I'm very happy. Ning Rongrong replied softly and kissed Lu Yuan again. She was always so bold and proactive. Lu Yuan was so happy that he hugged Ning Rongrong and kissed her with great pleasure. After Ning Rongrong inherited the position of the goddess of life, there was always an indescribably wonderful feeling when kissing her again. This feeling was intoxicating to Lu Yuan. Ahem, you two are not done, right? You've been intimate for a month, isn't it enough? Hulina coughed lightly and couldn't help but say. For the past month, Lu Yuan had been intimate with Ning Rongrong every day, and he didn't care about the time and place. She couldn't help but want to complain. That's right. Mind your image. Pasizi chimed in and joined in the chorus of complaints. That day, when she finished absorbing the divine seed of the sea god, she opened her eyes and saw Lu Yuan and Ning Rongrong in the sea god's palace. At the time, she was completely dumbfounded. These two guys were really audacious. Moreover, after they found out, not only did these two not change, but they even took an inch and wanted a mile. Even they couldn't escape from the claws of the demons and were pulled in together. The scene was too embarrassing to watch, especially since she was the new sea god. This was considered her territory. She was being bullied in front of her own home, and she couldn't do anything about it. This went on for a month, and seeing that Lu Yuan and Ning Rongrong were still causing trouble in the sea god's palace, Pasizi couldn't hold it in any longer. Zhu Zhuqing didn't say anything. She took a few steps back and blinked her large eyes gently as she looked at Lu Yuan quietly. Bibidon wasn't here, so no one could teach Lu Yuan a lesson. Not only would their provocations have no effect, but they would also put themselves in danger. As expected, after hearing Hulina and Pasizi's words, Lu Yuan slowly let go of Ning Rongrong. Then, he looked at the two of them with his double pupils. His eyes flickered with a dangerous light as the corners of his mouth curled into a mischievous smile. Looks like the two of you have quite a big disagreement. Lu Yuan chuckled softly as he slowly extended his hand. Hulina and Pasizi immediately sensed that something was amiss. They turned around and tried to run away, but even though they were powerful god kings, they couldn't escape from Lu Yuan's grasp at all. Pasizi and Hulina were pulled into Lu Yuan's arms. When he saw the two women's dejected expressions, Lu Yuan smiled faintly and pecked them on the lips. Then, with a thought, the scenery around them changed. They were directly transported from the sea god's palace to their residence. Even Zhu Zhuqing, who was watching the show from the side, couldn't escape this calamity. She was also brought over by Lu Yuan. I didn't cause any trouble. Zhu Zhuqing pouted and said with an innocent expression. The ones talking about him were Hulina and Pasizi. It had nothing to do with her. But I wanted to bring you along. Lu Yuan chuckled softly. And aren't the two of you good sisters? You'll share blessings and misfortunes together. Do you still want to stay out of this by yourself? Hee, that's impossible. Lu Yuan was all smiles, causing Zhu Zhuqing's pout to grow bigger and bigger. To her, this was truly an unexpected calamity. Damned Obuchi, Zhu Zhuqing muttered in her heart as she glared at Lu Yuan angrily. Chapter 1241. Lu Yuan didn't care about Zhu Zhuqing's resentful gaze at all. He sighed softly and pulled Zhu Zhuqing over. Lu Yuan rubbed Zhu Zhuqing's head and looked at the three women in her arms. He chuckled softly and said, I have 7 wives now, but only Nar is pregnant. I want to have a few more children. I don't know if you'll be able to fulfill this small wish of mine. Zhu Zhuqing, Hulina, and Pasizi's expressions changed almost at the same time. Have children? They all turned their gazes to Lu Yuan, and their eyes shone with resplendent light. Hulina and Zhu Zhuqing had wanted to have a child with Lu Yuan for a long time. Now that the topic was brought up again, the eagerness in their hearts surged into their minds again. Pasizi finally got together with Lu Yuan, and she was the oldest, so she naturally wanted to give birth to a child for Lu Yuan and be a real mother. So she was also very excited. The only one who didn't have much of a reaction was Ning Rongrong. It wasn't that she didn't like children, but her thoughts weren't completely mature yet. She was still stuck in a period when she enjoyed Lu Yuan's love, so she was particularly clingy. Perhaps it was a little too early for her to have children. At this moment, looking at the bright and resplendent eyes of Zhu Zhuqing, Hulina, and Pasizi, Ning Rongrong couldn't help but be stunned. Were children really that powerful? Good heavens, the thirst in these three women's eyes was much stronger than hers. Lu Yuan wasn't surprised. He understood how Zhu Zhuqing and the others felt. After all, he had spent so many years being urged to have children. In the past, he liked to wander around, but now that he had experienced so much and everything was ready, and he had become the supreme celestial emperor, his heart was slowly being put away. He really did want a child, especially after Gu Yuna became pregnant, and the desire to have a child in his heart had become more and more urgent. Looking at Zhu Zhuqing, Hulina, and Pasizi, Lu Yuan said with a smile, Yes, I want to have a child. I just don't know if you guys are willing to help. Why didn't you say so earlier? Hulina glared at Lu Yuan and hugged Lu Yuan. Pasizi on the side was not to be outdone. She hugged Lu Yuan's arm tightly. Under the strength of the two women, Ning Rongrong was directly pushed out. Zhu Zhuqing's eyes flickered, and a hint of urgency flashed across her face. She joined the battle as well. Ning Rongrong stared blankly at the actions of these women. Her eyes were dull. Good heavens, these women were crazy. Wait for me. Ning Rongrong was stunned for a moment, then quickly reacted and rushed up. In the air above the Dragon Valley small world, Lu Yuan's figure slowly appeared, and Gu Yuna's figure also appeared beside him. Behind them, the Mountain Dragon King, Flame Dragon King, Water Dragon King, and Titan Giant Ape all stood upright. After becoming the Celestial Emperor, they had all been resurrected by Lu Yuan. As Lu Yuan's soul spirits, they had all benefited greatly from Lu Yuan's Tao. Even though they didn't have divine thrones, their divine power was not inferior to that of a godly monarch. They were basically on the same level as the life goddess and destruction god. And even though their combat prowess was inferior to that of a godly monarch, it was still comparable to that of a half-step godly monarch. When a man achieves the Tao, even his chickens and dogs ascend to the heavens. These four soul spirits had indeed benefited greatly from following Lu Yuan. In the future, when they were bestowed divine thrones, their strength would increase even further. Even if they didn't become godly monarchs, with their powerful physical bodies, they would be able to contend with ordinary godly monarchs for a short period of time. These four soul beasts have been of great help to Lu Yuan in the past, so Lu Yuan naturally wouldn't be stingy with their rewards. In another sense, these four soul beasts could be considered the foundation of the soul beast lineage. Since he advocated for the peaceful coexistence of humans and soul beasts, he naturally wanted to give the soul beasts enough power to speak. He didn't favor any side, but among the remaining godly monarchs of the god realm, most of them were his women. Bibi Dan was naturally the most prominent representative of the human faction. After all, she used to be the pope of the martial soul palace, and she had Hulina and Chihiro Snow on her side. Their attitudes were definitely biased toward the humans. The soul beasts were naturally led by Gu Yuna, and perhaps the Snow Emperor would also join them in the future. As for Zhu Zhuqing, Ning Rongrong, and Pasizi, they were most likely neutral. They didn't ask for much, so they most likely didn't favor anyone. Most of the time, they would listen to Lu Yuan. As such, it could be said that in the highest echelons of the god realm, both the soul beasts and the humans had say. Of course, the humans had a slight advantage. Even though Zhu Zhuqing and the others were neutral, they were still human gods. However, below the godly monarchs, there were countless human gods, and the soul beast didn't have much of a foundation. As such, it was necessary to strengthen them appropriately. The Mountain Dragon King and the others were Lu Yuan's best choices. Not only would he be able to repay his debt of gratitude, but he would also be able to resolve a practical problem. In the sky, as soon as Lu Yuan appeared, he gently supported Gu Yuna. Looking at her trembling body, his eyes were filled with deep concern. "Are you all right now?" Lu Yuan asked in a gentle voice as he wrapped an arm around Gu Yuna's waist. Gu Yuna shook her head and replied, "I'm fine. Sai, I told you to rest at home, but you just had to come. Do you know how worried I was about you? You're pregnant, so you have to rest well." Lu Yuan stroked Gu Yuna's long silver hair with a hint of displeasure in his eyes. "I know, but reviving a dragon is such an important matter, so I wanted to come take a look. I'll be sure to stay at home from now on." Gu Yuna looked at Lu Yuan and said sweetly with a smile on her pretty face, "As the current ruler of the dragon tribe, how could she be willing to miss out on something as important as reviving a dragon? All right, this is the last time. You're not allowed to go anywhere in the future, so you have to stay in a martial spirit palace and take care of your baby. All right?" Lu Yuan pinched Gu Yuna's cheek, and bursts of white light flowed from his hand into Gu Yuna's body to nourish her body. "All right, I'll do as you say." Gu Yuna smiled in an extremely obedient manner. Lu Yuan nodded with a pleased expression. In terms of gentleness, Gu Yuna was the one he liked the most. Her gentleness was extremely comforting. That's more like it. However, there's something I have to say. I can revive them, but that's only limited to those with complete dragon bones and dragon souls. As for those with completely shattered dragon bones and dragon souls, I can't do anything about it. The power of laws is indeed very profound, but it still has to abide by some specific laws of the universe. Lu Yuan spoke with a serious expression. Chapter 1242. I understand. Gu Yuna nodded as she appraised Lu Yuan with her purple eyes and said in a gentle voice, "Just do as you please. Save those that you can, and those that you can't, that's their fate." These dragons had already died long ago, and it was already extremely fortunate that some of them could be resurrected. She naturally wasn't going to ask Lu Yuan to resurrect all of them, as that would be unrealistic. She had already understood this from the very beginning. The only ones that could be resurrected were the giant dragons in the dragon tomb, as their skeletons were more complete, so there was a higher chance that they could be resurrected. From the very beginning, she had only thought of reviving these dragons. Dragons revered their bloodlines, and in Gu Yuna's eyes, only pure-blooded giant dragons were worthy of her attention. Even though the hybrid dragons were also dragons, neither Gu Yuna nor the Mountain Dragon King paid them much heed. There were very few pure-blooded giant dragons, but there were still many hybrid dragons. Regardless of whether it was the Great Star Doe Forest or other ancient soul beast forests, there were still many hybrid dragons. As such, Gu Yuna naturally wasn't going to ask Lu Yuan to waste his energy on resurrecting these dragons. Not only was Lu Yuan her husband, he was also the celestial Arch, so she also had to consider Lu Yuan's well-being. Resurrecting a bunch of lowly hybrid dragons would be detrimental to Lu Yuan's image. Furthermore, there was no way that these hybrid dragons could be resurrected. As long as they weren't pure-blooded dragons, their skeletons wouldn't have been able to withstand the ravages of time. I'm glad to hear that. A faint smile appeared on Lu Yuan's face as he stroked Gu Yuna's cheek. As expected of Gu Yuna, she was still very understanding of him. Let's go. We'll continue onward and head straight to the dragon tomb, Lu Yuan said in a gentle voice. All right, Gu Yuna replied with a gentle smile on her face. In the air above the dragon tomb, Lu Yuan stood in midair, and boundless life force energy erupted from his outstretched hand, transforming into a rain of green light that slowly fell from the sky. This was the purest life force essence, and it was enough to resurrect the dead. In order to resurrect these dragons, there were only 3 steps. Firstly, the flesh and blood of the corpses that had long since faded away and were only left with white bones were once again covered in flesh and blood to create vitality. Secondly, he would repair the incomplete dragon souls and return them to their roots, so that every dragon's dragon soul would be completely restored. Third, let the dragon soul and the physical body fuse perfectly, truly awaken, and complete the complete resurrection. Not a single one of these 3 steps was simple. Just the first step alone was already an extremely difficult task for so many dragon bones that had undergone the baptism of time to glow with vitality and regrow flesh. Such dragon bones had long lost their vitality and only had a meager amount of divinity left. Even the goddess of life, who was most proficient in the power of life, couldn't make them grow flesh and blood. Not only did this require a sufficient amount of pure life origin energy, but it also required a method of creation, turning the dead into life, turning the impossible into the possible. This was the profundity of the power of creation. Currently, Lu Yuan was the only one in the world who could use the power of creation. The power of creation was also one of the most mysterious powers. It was on the same level as the powers of time, space, karma, fate, and so on. They were all extremely high-level powers. It was extremely difficult to master such a power. Lu Yuan had also mastered all kinds of mysterious powers of laws after becoming a god of laws. Otherwise, even he wouldn't have been able to understand the wonders of the power of creation. Under the profundity of the power of creation that Lu Yuan used, the rain of light that contained pure life origin energy dripped onto the huge dragon bones and produced a miraculous reaction. On the dragon bones that were originally snow white, like jade, bright red granulation began to emerge at a speed visible to the naked eye. This mysterious performance made Gu Yuna and the others standing beside Lu Yuan couldn't help but click their tongues in amazement. Amazing! Gu Yuna couldn't help but exclaim. Her eyes were full of admiration as she looked at Lu Yuan. Even though she could control the power of creation of the dragon god, she was completely unable to do what Lu Yuan was doing. She could give life to things that were full of spirituality, but it was completely beyond her ability to turn this corpse that had been dead for a long time and was full of death energy into life energy and reenact life energy. Not only her, but even the god of creation was unable to do this. This was not creating life, but turning the dead into life. This was several levels more difficult than creating life. Lu Yuan felt a faint sense of pride as Gu Yuna looked at him in this way. He didn't care for the praise and admiration of others, but he couldn't help but feel elated that his wife was looking at him with admiration and reverence. However, even though he was elated, Lu Yuan's movements didn't slow down in the slightest. Boundless life, origin energy that was imbued with the power of creation quickly scattered down. Time passed by slowly. Not long after, for hours had passed. The Dragon Valley had already undergone a massive transformation. The massive skeletons had all transformed into massive dragons, and their bodies were exuding powerful energy fluctuations and bursting with life force. At this point, the reconstruction of the bodies was basically complete, and the next step was the second step. Each and every dragon skeleton contained a dragon soul, and Lu Yuan was going to extract these dragon souls to repair their souls. Lu Yuan waved a hand through the air, and an illusionary dragon projection flew out from each and every one of the dragon skeletons. Dragon roars rang out as tens of thousands of dragons danced in the air above the dragon tomb. Lu Yuan flipped his hand over, and boundless soul origin energy quickly flowed down along with the power of creation. The boundless pure soul origin energy combined with the power of creation was the best thing for repairing dragon souls. As for where soul origin energy came from, Lu Yuan was also extremely proficient in soul laws, and he could draw soul origin energy from the universe as easily as flipping his hand over. Invisible energy, origin energy flowed into the dragon souls, and their souls began to rapidly solidify. Their soul origin energy was being enriched, and their souls became more and more robust. Gu Yuna looked on in amazement at Lu Yuan's actions, and she suddenly sighed. "Oh, Bu Qi, I finally understand what you're saying. Only with complete dragon bones can a complete dragon body be reconstructed, and only with a dragon soul can a complete dragon body be repaired. So that's how it is. Without complete dragon bones, a perfect body couldn't be reconstructed, and without a dragon soul, a dragon would become a completely inanimate object. There wouldn't even be a chance for repair. So how could it be resurrected? That's right. This is why I told you that I can't resurrect all of the dragons." Lu Yuan smiled faintly. After experiencing these two steps, Gu Yuna was naturally able to discern what the key to resurrection was, and he wasn't surprised by this. Is this the so-called special law of the universe? Gu Yuna leaned against Lu Yuan's body and asked in a soft voice. That's right. This is the special law of the universe. Resurrection is possible, but there needs to be a special trace of life. Lu Yuan stroked Gu Yuna's delicate face with a faint smile. Chapter 1243. Resurrection was something that had to be relied on. It was impossible to create something out of nothing. Generally speaking, the most important trace of life was the soul. It was naturally best to have a physical body, but the soul was the most important. As long as there was a certain amount of soul, Lu Yuan could complete the resurrection with his ability. For example, the Snow Emperor, the Ice Empress, the Titan Giant Ape, and so on. However, these dragons were special. They had been dead for a long time, and their dragon souls were hidden in their dragon bones. Only with the existence of the dragon bones could they resist the erosion of time. Without complete dragon bones, there would be no dragon souls. Even if there was a dragon soul, it would be damaged beyond repair, and there would be no possibility of forming it again. That was why Lu Yuan said that dragon bones and dragon souls were indispensable. He was not speaking carelessly. Gently holding Gu Yuna with his left hand, Lu Yuan flipped his right hand. Endless soul origin power sprinkled down, and the damaged souls slowly became complete again. Tens of thousands of dragons danced in the sky, bathing in an invisible rain of soul light. Loud dragon roars resounded through the clouds. Repairing the soul took more time than repairing the physical body. Even with sufficient soul, origin, and creation power, it could not be done overnight. This time, it took a total of 10 hours to complete all the steps. It's about time. Lu Yuan's eyes narrowed. He gently waved his right hand, and the dragon souls roared into the sky. The dragon roars were extremely powerful and pleasing to the ear. After such a long period of nurturing, their souls had completely patched up all the flaws and became complete and flawless. Go! Lu Yuan pointed casually. Accompanied by a strange pulling force, all the dragon souls flew towards the dragon bodies on the ground as if they were summoned. Resurrection from death, mysterious light of creation. Lu Yuan murmured, and endless nine-colored mysterious light sprinkled down from the sky. Under the illumination of the nine-colored profound light, the dragon soul began to rapidly fuse with the dragon body. A powerful aura slowly rose from the dragon tomb. One after another, huge dragons opened their golden vertical pupils that were filled with deterrence. Many pure-blooded dragons were completely revived at this moment, and powerful dragon might spread out. Upon seeing this, Gu Yuna was unable to contain her emotions. She tightly grasped Lu Yuan's arm, and her purple eyes were shimmering with tears. These were tears of joy that flowed out of his eyes. This was the first time Lu Yuan had seen Gu Yuna like this, and his heart trembled slightly. He pulled Gu Yuna into his embrace, gently stroking her silver hair and kissing her beautiful cheeks. Obuchi, thank you so much. Gu Yuna raised her little head and looked at Lu Yuan with an unblinking gaze, her eyes filled with sincere gratitude. The corners of Lu Yuan's mouth rose slightly. He pinched Gu Yuna's nose and said, I told you not to be polite with me. You're still thanking me? You're asking for a beating. Lu Yuan flicked Gu Yuna's forehead as he spoke. Ouch, it hurts. Gu Yuna pouted as she looked up at Lu Yuan with a pitiable expression, and a hint of a smile appeared in her purple eyes. You're such a drama queen. Lu Yuan rolled his eyes at Gu Yuna before planting a kiss on her red lips. He then gently pinched her soft cheeks. Gu Yuna giggled and hugged Lu Yuan tightly, lying quietly in his arms. Lu Yuan looked at her with a doting expression before planting a kiss on her forehead. Then, a serious expression gradually appeared on his face. There's something I have to tell you in advance. You have to remember this and take care of it well. Otherwise, if any accidents or mishaps occur in the future, I definitely won't hold back. When that time comes, I hope you won't blame me. Lu Yuan spoke in a calm and placid voice. What is it? Gu Yuna immediately perked up upon hearing Lu Yuan's words. She could sense that Lu Yuan was extremely serious, and she couldn't help but be intrigued. I'm talking about them, Lu Yuan said in an indifferent voice as he glanced down at the giant dragons down below. What do you mean, Obuchi? Gu Yuna's brows furrowed slightly. She had a rough idea of what Lu Yuan wanted to say. They've all been resurrected, and the power of the Dragon Clan has increased. They're all gods, and with the addition of the Mountain Dragon King and Fire Dragon King, the soul beasts are no longer weak. On top of that, they have you as their leader, and the Golden Dragon King is sealed in the Divine Realm's forbidden area. On top of that, you have my heir. With your intelligence, you should know what I'm trying to say, right? Lu Yuan looked at Gu Yuna in an indifferent manner. Understand. Gu Yuna's expression tensed up slightly as she said, So you're worried that they'll try to take over the Divine Realm again? That's not an idle thought, is it? They've all been through the Divine Realm War, and I'm sure you know the reason why the Dragon God initiated the Divine Realm War. Isn't it all for the sake of taking over the Divine Realm? Furthermore, they're extremely detestable toward the gods. Now that they've been resurrected, won't they want to take revenge? Will they try to take over the Divine Realm again? Isn't that very likely? I'm the one who wants to lead the peaceful coexistence between humans and soul beasts. If they really do cross the line, I won't be lenient. I can resurrect them, but I can also easily send them to their deaths. Do you understand? Lu Yuan asked in a soft voice. Of course I do, but aren't you being a little too worried? With you around, no one will dare to rebel. Besides, I'm also on your side. As for the Golden Dragon King, he's even more vulnerable. He can't even defeat me in my current state. Gu Yuna said in a gentle voice. They wouldn't dare to rebel openly, but what about in secret? Don't forget that you already have my heir. Perhaps they'll set their sights on our child. Our child can be said to have a complete soul beast bloodline, and it's an existence that has gathered the power of our bloodlines. Its bloodline rank is definitely far superior to the dragon gods. Do you think they'll bewitch our child and try to push our child to the throne? I'm someone who can't stay idle. I can't sit on the throne for the rest of my life. I have to pass the throne down. If our brainwashed child is the one sitting on the throne at this time, do you think he'll use the soul beast to suppress the human gods? Lu Yuan said in a faint voice. This. Gu Yina was stunned. Although Lu Yuan's words were a little shocking, it was still very possible after thinking about it carefully. Setting aside everything else, perhaps the Mountain Dragon King, the Fire and Water Dragon King, Di Tian, and the other soul beasts would do their best to push her and Lu Yuan's child onto the throne. No, it wasn't just a possibility. With their wholehearted desire to strengthen the soul beasts, this was something that would definitely happen. With that in mind, Gu Yuna's heart jolted with shock. She looked at Lu Yuan, and her heart turned cold. After experiencing so much, she already had a deep understanding of Lu Yuan's personality. If they really did that, then what awaited them would definitely be death, and it would be an unbearable death. Chapter 1244. Although Lu Yuan was usually very gentle and easy to get along with, once he became ruthless, he would never show mercy. With his decisive character, she was afraid that when the time came, he would kill the Dragon Clan until their heads rolled and blood flowed. The Dragon Clan that had just risen with great difficulty might be suppressed by Lu Yuan again. Although Lu Yuan had the Dragon Clan's bloodline, Gu Yuna knew that when he really made a move, he would not show the slightest mercy. If it really came to that situation, could she stop Lu Yuan? She had no confidence. She had always been gentle and considerate in front of Lu Yuan and listened to his words. She really didn't take Lu Yuan's advice seriously. Moreover, at that time, would she have enough reason to persuade Lu Yuan? Could it be that she would pester Lu Yuan endlessly and cry, using their relationship to force Lu Yuan to stop? Not to mention that she wouldn't do that at all. Even if she really did that, how would she face Lu Yuan in the future? Would Lu Yuan have any scruples in his heart? After all, Lu Yuan's character was extremely strong. He hated it when others threatened him, not to mention using their relationship to threaten him. Therefore, this was really not a trivial matter. It was related to the survival of the Dragon Clan in the future. It might also be related to her and Lu Yuan's child, and even the relationship between her and Lu Yuan. She cared about the Dragon Clan, but she loved Lu Yuan more. After so many years of getting along, Lu Yuan had already become the love of her heart. His position in her heart was noble and unshakable. For men, if they had to choose between career and love, most men would choose career because men were more rational. Love a beauty or love a country. This was an easy choice to make. Naturally, it would be a country, because with a country, there would be no shortage of beauties. People like Lu Yuan who didn't care about fame and power and only cared about their women were relatively rare. Women, on the other hand, were different. Women were more emotional. Once they fell in love and truly loved someone wholeheartedly, that person would be as important as the heavens to them. This was especially true for Gu Yuna, who had a history of falling in love with Tang Wulin despite the fact that she had disregarded the soul beasts. Lu Yuan was far more outstanding than Tang Wulin, and Tang Wulin had relied on Gu Yuna's help the entire time. Gu Yuna loved him deeply. Not to mention, Lu Yuan had helped Gu Yuna a lot, and the two of them were deeply entangled. Furthermore, they were like-minded, and they had challenged the God realm together. Now that they had a child together, Gu Yuna's love for Lu Yuan surpassed everything else. As such, she wasn't going to allow her relationship with Lu Yuan to fall apart. As such, if Lu Yuan really did want to kill these dragons, Gu Gu Yuna would have no choice but to acquiesce. They had done something wrong, so they deserved to be punished. She couldn't allow them to ruin her relationship with Lu Yuan and their family. As such, if she wanted these dragons to live, then she had to take good care of them from now on. She was the ruler of the dragon race, so she had to do all of this. Otherwise, if Lu Yuan really did make a move, everything would be too late. Gu Yuna nodded as she looked directly into Lu Yuan's eyes and said in a serious voice, "I understand. I'll take good care of them." "That's good. I'm just informing you in advance so that you won't be caught in the middle. I don't want to see you sad. Of course, things aren't that serious. You just have to take good care of them. Also, there's something I have to make clear. Don't be angry. I may not be passing on my position to our child in the future." Lu Yuan stroked Gu Yuna's cheek in a warm voice. "Obuchi, this is your eldest son." Gu Yuna faltered slightly, as if she couldn't believe that Lu Yuan would say something like this. She stared intently at Lu Yuan with an interrogative look in her eyes. "I know you love Bibi Dan and Chihiro Snow more, and you want their child to become the Celestial Emperor, but my child is your eldest son, after all. Even if you don't pass on your position to him, you should at least give him a fair chance." "Obuchi, you're being too biased." Gu Yuna's eyes were slightly red, and her heart was extremely unsettled. She could accept that Lu Yuan loved Chihiro Snow and Bibi Dan more, but she hoped that Lu Yuan would treat her child fairly. After all, this was Lu Yuan's bloodline, and this was his eldest son. Lu Yuan's bias really made her feel a little disappointed. "Nah, you've misunderstood." Seeing Gu Yuna's tearful yet angry look, Lu Yuan sighed softly and hurriedly comforted her. "I'm not being biased. I'm thinking about the overall situation. Since I advocate for the peaceful coexistence of humans and soul beasts, then the person sitting on the throne in the future must treat humans and soul beasts equally. Our child has a complete soul beast bloodline. Even if no one bewitches him, the bloodline in his body will make him prefer soul beasts, just like you." Lu Yuan said faintly. This. Gu Yuna's delicate body trembled, and her jade hand couldn't help but caress her belly. She admitted that Lu Yuan's words were very reasonable. Their child had a complete soul beast bloodline. Would he be close to human gods or soul beasts? This went without saying. Seeing that Gu Yuna was silent, Lu Yuan sighed again and said, "I absolutely treat my children equally, but as the Celestial Emperor, I have to be responsible for all my subjects. The position of Celestial Emperor must be occupied by someone who is both the blood of the human race and the dragon race. Only in this way can he best ensure his neutrality. It doesn't matter whether it's Shuer or Dong or his child. In fact, whether it's Nana or Pasizi, if they have a child in the future, as long as it's suitable, they can sit on the Heavenly Emperor's throne." Lu Yuan gently stroked Gu Yuna's silver hair as he spoke in a meaningful voice. He had been thinking about these things for a long time. Although he knew that Gu Yuna would definitely be unhappy if he said it, it had to be solved, and it was better to solve it early than late. If he really waited for the child to grow up, Gu Yuna was afraid that at that time, it would be even more difficult for her to accept, and it might even affect the relationship between the members of the harem. Now that the child had not been born yet, it was best to take advantage of the revival of the dragon race to bring it up together. He believed that as long as what he said was reasonable, Gu Yuna would understand him. After all, now that the child had not been born, he was definitely Gu Yuna's most beloved child. But when the child was born, it might not be so. A mother's love was not a joke. When the time comes, Gu Yuna might really make trouble with him for the child. Then it would be really troublesome. And what he hated the most was trouble, so it was better to cut the Gordian knot cleanly. Chapter 1245. Gu Yuna fell even more silent upon hearing Lu Yuan's words. She lowered her head and gripped onto Lu Yuan's clothes tightly in silence. Lu Yuan heaved a faint sigh as he stroked Gu Yuna's cheek and wrapped his arms tightly around her body. He didn't want to do this, but for the sake of the future stability of the divine realm, as well as for the peaceful coexistence between humans and soul beasts, he had to ensure that the person who ascended the throne would possess both human and soul beast bloodlines, so that both races could be treated fairly. His child with Gu Yuna didn't meet this condition from the very beginning, so perhaps Gu Yuna would be sad and uncomfortable, but he had to do this as this was his responsibility. Furthermore, this was also to prevent future battles between humans and soul beasts. After all, no one wanted to see another war break out in the divine realm. What he was doing was the most reasonable and effective method, and it would be very beneficial to both the divine realm and the two races. I understand what you're thinking, but this is still unfair to our child. After a long period of silence, Gu Yuna raised her head and stared at Lu Yuan with her purple eyes as she said in a soft voice, "I know. I'll make it up to him in other ways. After all, he's my son, so I naturally won't let him suffer." Lu Yuan stroked Gu Yuna's cheek with a faint smile. How are you going to make it up to our child?" Gu Yuna harumphed coldly. "This." Lu Yuan faltered slightly upon hearing this. He really couldn't think of how he was going to make it up to Gu Yuna, and he hadn't given it much thought. He was planning to slowly make it up to her after the child was born, but he really didn't know how to make it up to her now. "Are you lying to me?" Gu Yuna's eyes narrowed as a dangerous cold light flashed through her eyes, and it was as if she were about to explode at any moment. A wry smile appeared on Lu Yuan's face. This was the first time that he had seen Gu Yuna like this. In the past, Gu Yuna had never looked at him with such an expression. She completely changed whenever her child was involved. The child hadn't even been born yet, but she was already thinking of fighting for benefits for him. Sure enough, all mothers in the world were the same. Thinking for the child was an instinct engraved in the depths of their lives. "Why would I lie to you? Tell me, what kind of compensation do you want?" "I'll give it to you," Lu Yuan said softly. Hearing this, Gu Yuna's expression eased a little. She glared at Lu Yuan and said, "Our child must inherit the position of dragon god in the future. You have to make arrangements for the position of god. That's for sure. This is my duty. It's not considered compensation. Go on." Lu Yuan patted his chest and said generously. Gu Yuna rolled her eyes at the sight of Lu Yuan pretending to be magnanimous. Secondly, the soul beast race must be led by our children in the future. That's fine as well. After all, after inheriting the position of dragon god, you're born to be the soul beast commander. It's fine as long as you don't have any thoughts of opposing the god realm. I agree, but this can't be considered compensation. Lu Yuan nodded and said casually, "Although our child has the heart of the dragon god, a super divine tool, the heart of the dragon god is not a weapon. As a father, you have to show some appreciation. It's a small matter. I'll personally refine a super divine tool for him." Lu Yuan waved his hand and said, "A super divine tool is not enough." Gu Yuna said faintly, "There are enough super divine tools in the god realm. This is your eldest son. Wouldn't it be too shameful to use a super divine tool?" "Oh, then what level of weapon do you want?" Lu Yuan said with a deeper meaning. "I think your Dragon Emperor Drain Spring Spear is very good. It should be above the level of super divine tool, right?" Gu Yuna said as if she didn't mean it. "You want the Dragon Emperor Drain Spring Spear?" Lu Yuan looked at Gu Yuna with a smile that wasn't a smile. Even if he didn't take the initiative to upgrade the Dragon Emperor Drain Spring Spear. But after he became the god of laws, he received a little bit of reverse nurturing. The Dragon Emperor Draining Spring Spear's current level had long surpassed Super Divine Artifact. It was no longer inferior to the God of Creation's divine sword used by the God of Creation. If there was a realm after the God King realm, such as the God Emperor and God Emperor, then the Dragon Emperor Drain Spring Spear would be a genuine God Emperor weapon. An ordinary God King holding the Dragon Emperor Drain Spring Spear could probably fight a God King absolute powerhouse and even defeat them. Gu Yuna's eyesight was really sharp. With a glance, she saw the best thing in Lu Yuan's hands. "What do you mean I want it? This is for our child. Anyway, you're invincible now and don't need the Dragon Emperor Drain Spring Spear." Gu Yuna stared at Lu Yuan and said indifferently, "Don't talk to me about other things. I'm just asking, are you going to give it to me or not?" Yes. Lu Yuan nodded helplessly and said, "Isn't it just a Dragon Emperor drained spring spear? Of course, I'll give it to you." Just as Gu Yuna said, although the Dragon Emperor drained spring spear was powerful, it couldn't keep up with his strength. He didn't need it at all. Since Gu Yuna wanted it, he was naturally willing to give it to her. After all, the one using it was his child, a family member. He naturally wouldn't be stingy. That's more like it. At least you're sensible. Hearing Lu Yuan's answer, Gu Yuna revealed a beautiful smile. She had been eyeing the Dragon Emperor drained spring spear for a long time. This was a divine spear forged from the bones of a true dragon. It had unlimited potential. Now that she had the opportunity, she naturally wanted to help her child get it. With this spear, coupled with the divine dragon position, her child's strength would definitely be unrivaled in the divine world in the future. Even if he couldn't become the heavenly emperor in the future, she wouldn't have to worry about her child being bullied. Moreover, she didn't have many illusions about the heavenly emperor's position from the very beginning. She was clear that no matter how nice Lu Yuan's words were, the heavenly emperor of the divine world would only appear among the children of Bibi Dawn and Chihiro Snow in the future. Because Lu Yuan loved them the most, he would naturally unconsciously favor their children. How could it be possible for him to treat everyone equally and achieve absolute fairness? Moreover, Bibi Dawn was the main wife, and Chihiro Snow was Lu Yuan's first woman. Their children would inherit the heavenly emperor's position more justifiably. In fact, she had always understood this point. She wasn't stupid. On the contrary, she was very smart. It was just that she had always stood behind Lu Yuan. She carefully put away her cleverness and was willing to be Lu Yuan's little woman. But now, for the sake of her child, she had to show her cleverness again and strive for more benefits for her child. This was a mother's nature. It was human nature. Lu Yuan could naturally see Gu Yuna's thoughts, but he chose to be satisfied, because he knew that Gu Yuna didn't have any bad intentions. Moreover, the child in Gu Yuna's belly was his only flesh and blood. How could not love it? Chapter 1246. Lu Yuan's double pupils slightly shifted. Looking at Gu Yuna, who wore a beautiful smile on her face, Lu Yuan smiled faintly. Kissing her smooth and tender face, he said with a smile, "What else do you want? You can't be satisfied with just a Dragon Emperor Spring Drain Spear, right? Can I continue?" Gu Yuna glanced at Lu Yuan in surprise. Their child had just lost an opportunity to compete for the position of Heavenly Emperor. In her view, this opportunity with a bleak future could be exchanged for a Dragon Emperor Drained Spring Spear. She didn't expect that Lu Yuan would let her continue. "Of course you can continue. No matter what compensation you ask for today, I will give it to you. As I said, I won't let my child suffer a loss, let alone let him be wronged. Perhaps you will think that I will love Cher or Dong Air's child more. Of course, I also admit that I may love you a little, but at this stage, I only have this one flesh and blood. No matter what he wants, as long as I have it, I will never be stingy. I am his father, and I will love him as much as you." Lu Yuan said with a serious expression. Gu Yuna's tender body trembled, and her beautiful purple eyes flickered slightly. Looking at Lu Yuan's sincere appearance, Gu Yuna's heart trembled slightly, and her eyes became softer and softer. "Then let's refine a set of exclusive Dragon God Divine armor for our child. I want at least a super divine armor." Gu Yuna lay in Lu Yuan's arms and said softly, "There was only one divine armor above the super divine armor in the entire God realm, and that was Lu Yuan's Heavenly Emperor Divine armor. As Lu Yuan became a god of laws, the Heavenly Emperor Divine armor, which was more closely related to him, even surpassed the Dragon Emperor Drained Spring Spear in level and reached a higher realm. But apart from Lu Yuan, who had the Heavenly Emperor Divine armor, no one else could have a super divine armor. A super divine armor was far more precious than a super divine armor. Now that Gu Yuna had mentioned it, their child would be the second person to possess a super divine tool, which would significantly enhance their child's power in the future. As expected of you. Sure enough, You've chosen good stuff. I promise you, I'll personally refine a set of super divine equipment that suits the divine position of the dragon god. Lu Yuan said with a smile as he tickled Gu Yuna's nose. Although it was more troublesome to forge super divine equipment, it wasn't too much of a problem for Lu Yuan. Naturally, Lu Yuan wouldn't refuse Gu Yuna's request. I knew you the best, Obuchi. Hearing this, Gu Yuna immediately smiled sweetly and quickly pecked Lu Yuan on the lips. Her beautiful face was full of smiles. Huh, now you're saying that I'm the best. Didn't you just angrily say that I was biased? And that cold look in his eyes, TSK, TSK, he almost scared me to death. Lu Yuan clicked his tongue twice and deliberately teased. Is that so? Did I say that? I don't remember. Gu Yuna blinked her eyes and said with an innocent face, as if these things really had nothing to do with her. You don't remember? Then do you want me to help you recall? Lu Yuan pinched Gu Yuna's cheek, his eyes drifting slightly, and his right hand gently placed on Gu Yuna's waist. He remembered very clearly that Gu Yuna was very ticklish. Sure enough, as soon as Lu Yuan's right hand scratched twice, Gu Yuna giggled. Her laughter was as pleasant as a silver bell. Okay, Obuchi, stop fooling around, don't hurt the child. Gu Yuna grabbed Lu Yuan's mischievous hand and said in a sweet voice. Then do you remember? Lu Yuan's lips curled slightly and asked in a light voice. I remember I was wrong. Gu Yuna arched her head in Lu Yuan's arms and winked at Lu Yuan, acting coquettishly. It had to be said that with her exceptional beauty, it was very difficult to resist when she acted coquettishly. Lu Yuan had initially wanted to tease her a little more, but his heart stirred slightly at the sight of her coquettish appearance, and he couldn't help but cover her red lips with his own. After a short while, Lu Yuan released Gu Yuna's cherry lips, and he waved his right hand gently through the air. A spatial rift appeared, and he walked directly into it with Gu Yuna in his arms. Gu Yuna was pregnant, so he had no choice but to go back and find comfort. The Mountain Dragon King and Fire Dragon King looked at one another at the sight of Lu Yuan's departure, and then they rushed down into the dragon tomb. Lu Yuan and Gu Yuna had left, so they naturally had to stay behind to clean up the mess. They were going to take this group of giant dragons to the Great Stardow Forest, which was the best habitat for soul beasts. Martial Soul Palace, Lake Heart Island. There was a reclining chair on the empty flat ground, and a white-robed figure was lying comfortably on the reclining chair, lazily basking in the sun. Beside him, a young girl in a tight black leather jacket would occasionally fork a piece of fruit and bring it to his mouth. The white-robed figure gently opened his mouth and placed the fruit into his mouth with a carefree and relaxed expression. To be able to enjoy such treatment in the Martial Soul Palace, this white-robed figure's identity was self-evident, and there was no one else other than Lu Yuan. The young girl in the black leather jacket was naturally Zhu Zhuqing. After all, among Lu Yuan's women, only Zhu Zhuqing and Gu Yuna were willing to serve him like this. However, Gu Yuna was currently nursing her pregnancy, so only Zhu Zhuqing was left. Although this little kitten looked cold and aloof, she actually knew how to serve people. She was also very gentle, and Lu Yuan liked to be close to her. After stretching, Lu Yuan directly wrapped his arms around Zhu Zhuqing's waist and pulled her into his embrace amidst her surprised gasps. Zhu Zhuqing was initially shocked, but she quickly reacted and rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan before finding a comfortable position to lie down on Lu Yuan's body. With a beauty in his arms, especially one with such a hot figure like Zhu Zhuqing, the feeling was naturally extremely comfortable. After kissing Zhu Zhuqing's red lips, Lu Yuan's eyes were half closed as he sniffed the delicate fragrance on Zhu Zhuqing's body and enjoyed the gentle breeze blowing across his face. His mood was calm, and he felt as if he was in a peaceful state of mind. Oh, young Master Lu, you really know how to enjoy yourself. Just as Lu Yuan was closing his eyes and enjoying himself, Chihiro Snow's voice rang in his ears. Lu Yuan gently opened his eyes, and Chihiro Snow's incomparably exquisite face immediately entered his vision. Lu Yuan faintly smiled and said, "What, Cher? Do you also want to join? Come, I can also add you here." Waving his right hand, Lu Yuan indicated that the right side of his body was still empty, and he could definitely hug another one. "Screw you, who wants to join? I still have things to do. Do you think I'm as free as you?" Speaking of this, Chihiro Snow was immediately filled with resentment. As a sane emperor, he never cared about anything. Every day, it was her and BB Don who were busy, but Lu Yuan was leisurely basking in the sun while hugging Zhu Zhuqing. Just looking at it made her angry. Chapter 1247. Ahem. Capable people do more work. I don't know anything, so I can only leave these important matters of the country to you and Dong Air. Hearing Chihiro Snow's question, Lu Yuan rubbed his nose, opened his eyes, and began to talk nonsense. Haha, you don't know. Young Master Lu, your ability to talk nonsense is getting better and better. Chihiro Snow glared at Lu Yuan. This guy clearly knew more about important matters of the country than anyone else, and his methods were top-notch. It was all purely because he was lazy. In terms of slacking off, no one could compare to this guy. And in recent days, in order to slack off, his skin had become thicker and thicker. He actually said that he didn't know anything about important matters of the country. He really took them for fools. I don't know how you became the sane emperor. You're not responsible at all. Chihiro Snow couldn't help but complain again, looking at Lu Yuan with a hint of bitterness. Being stared at by Chihiro Snow like this, Lu Yuan was not embarrassed. He got up and let Zhu Zhuqing sit on his lap. His left hand wrapped around her delicate body and gently hugged her. He looked at Chihiro Snow with a calm and gentle gaze. It's not a big deal. The two of you can completely handle it. Moreover, the two of you are so career-oriented. Am I not giving you a chance to show off? Lu Yuan smiled and waved at Chihiro Snow. Chihiro Snow helplessly rolled his eyes at Lu Yuan. No matter when, this guy always had so many excuses. Even when he was lazy, he did it so confidently and confidently. It was a matter of course, as expected of him. Seeing that Lu Yuan was still waving at him, Chihiro Snow sighed softly. But he still moved his straight, smooth, and slender legs and walked toward Lu Yuan. Although she said that she refused and disliked him, her body was very honest. She also liked the feeling of being in Lu Yuan's embrace. Lu Yuan's right hand directly embraced Chihiro Snow, and she sat on his right leg, looking directly at Zhu Zhuqing. The two girls looked at each other calmly. It was not the first time that Lu Yuan hugged them like this, and they were already used to it. Moreover, Lu Yuan was too strong. They were no match for him in a one-on-one fight, so they had to work together. After a few times, they had already established a very deep friendship and knew each other very well. Now, such a small battle formation was really nothing. Lu Yuan kissed the lips of the two girls with a satisfied and happy expression. He rubbed Chihiro Snow's face and asked softly, "Cher, why did you come back from the Holy Emperor's palace to look for me?" Chihiro Snow was usually in the Holy Emperor's palace with BB Don at this time. She must have something to talk to him about, and he could naturally tell that she wanted to talk to him. "I wanted to ask you about the relationship between humans and soul beasts. How do you want to deal with it? Also, how do you want to divide the living space between humans and soul beasts? These are all things that you need to decide." Chihiro Snow blinked her watery golden eyes as she spoke plainly. She and BB Don were only dealing with some small matters, and Lu Yuan had to make the final decision on such big matters. This was especially so under Lu Yuan's control. The Sun-Moon continent had merged with the Douluo continent, and both continents were ruled by the Martial Soul Empire. Their territory had increased, and things had become more complicated. In addition, the dragons had revived, and soul beasts had become much stronger. These problems were very acute. Up until now, many soul masters and soul beasts had clashed, and many soul masters had died. The Great Stardow Forest had become a forbidden area, and all soul masters who entered the Great Stardow Forest died. The situation was very serious. Therefore, even though she knew that Lu Yuan liked peace and quiet, she had no choice but to come and bother Lu Yuan. She and Bibi Don couldn't do anything about these matters. She and Bibi Don were god kings, but they couldn't do anything to the great Stardow Forest because they had to consider Gu Yuna's existence. Only Lu Yuan could make the decision. Chihiro Snow didn't hide anything and told Lu Yuan everything from beginning to end. Those dragons are too tough and they're too strong. They don't allow any soul masters to hunt soul beasts, and soul masters will be killed if they enter the great Stardow Forest. This has caused a huge commotion. Soul masters can't leave their soul rings, and the conflict between humans and soul beasts has intensified. If we don't control it well, a huge war might break out. Chihiro Snow sighed and said softly. After hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan furrowed his brow, and his expression became serious. Has the situation become so serious? He wanted to deal with these matters after he was done, but he didn't expect things to turn out like this. It was really beyond his expectations. It seems like those revived dragons have returned, and the soul beasts have become a little arrogant. Lu Yuan's eyes narrowed. Soul beasts are soul beasts indeed. There aren't many with brains, and they dare to cause trouble right under my nose. Do they really think I won't do anything to the soul beast just because Nar is here? Lu Yuan sneered inwardly. Sure enough, the worries that he had expressed to Gu Yuna back then were justified. These dragons must be disciplined, otherwise they would definitely set their sights on the dominant position. Right now, they were only in the Douluo continent, and they were only chasing away humans. Perhaps they would expand their forces in the future and want to occupy human territory. In the future, they might really want to dominate the God realm. Looking at the current situation, it was time for him to make a move. He had to completely unify the Douluo continent and eliminate all hidden problems. He couldn't delay any longer. After making up his mind, Lu Yuan looked at Chihiro Snow and said, I already know what happened. I'll make a trip to the great Stardow Forest and send all the God-ranked dragons to the God realm. I'll give the soul beasts a warning first. After that, I'll resolve the problem of soul rings. I'll completely eliminate the antagonism between humans and soul beasts and improve the relationship between the two races. Completely resolve the problem of soul rings? Are you going to change the rules of cultivation? Chihiro Snow couldn't help but ask. Yes, this is the best way. Hunting soul beasts to obtain soul rings is too abnormal. Furthermore, there's no future development. We have to change it. Lu Yuan nodded. Then how do you want to change it? After so many years of development, the soul ring system has become deeply ingrained in everyone's hearts. If we build a new cultivation system, I'm afraid many soul masters won't be able to accept it. Chihiro Snow said softly. Of course the soul ring system will remain. I'm only changing the method of obtaining soul rings. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. What do you mean? Chihiro Snow frowned. She didn't understand. The power of a martial soul is strange. The power of heaven and earth is limitless. Lu Yuan's eyes flashed as he chuckled. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.